joins us in studio. Also, our teams around the country are monitoring what's going on around them. We'll be speaking to Mombasa, Kisumu, and Eldoret. In a bit later, sports, business, and entertainment desk will share with us what they have this morning. Let's begin with sports. Let's begin with business. My name is Ken Mijung, and Hudhaifa Eden joins us in studio. Hudhaifa.
Good morning, Ken. Of course, a lot is expected to happen today following the NASA protests that are expected to start today against the poll agency. But as you know, Ken, that affects the financial markets in every way. It affects the currency, it affects the trading at the NSE. But as we saw yesterday, the NSE remained calm, the financial market remained calm, and the shilling exchange at 103 shillings and 25 cents against the greenback. But of course, the NSE index, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, dropped marginally, but I think things are a bit stable, things are a bit calm. Let's see how it goes further as we go into the weekend by the end of business today. But then again, we'll be equally having SBG Securities, which is expected to launch a mobile trading platform of shares at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, headquarters here at the exchange in Westlands. A lot of people from the Capital Markets Authority, representatives from the Nairobi Securities Exchange are expected to come. Let's see how things equally develop over there. But this and many more, join me, Hudhaifa Eden, on the NTV business segment.
Right, Hudhaifa, before I let you go, tell me something. The markets, have they stabilized following the general election?
Yes, markets remained a bit stable. A lot of activities have been happening. The shilling has been getting firmer since we did our general election on the 8th of August. But the repeat polls, a lot of activities are expected to as we go ahead. But as of now, the markets are calm. The shilling is very stable against foreign currencies.
All right, Hudhaifa, coming up in the next hour or so, and let's talk about sports. And Tan is still big this morning, and that's where we find Warothe Kir. Warothe, what do you have this morning?
Good morning, Ken. And we're following up on the shame of Chan. We'll be seeking to find whether the sports minister, that's Hassan Wario, will finally break his silence and talk about the debacle that was us being stripped of the CAF Chan 2018 hosting rights. Also, if you're a football fan, EPL football fan, you know that Arsenal fans are very happy. This morning I'll be telling you about the EPL Monday night action, also the Liga Monday night action, and we'll be previewing the Champions League. It's Champions League week, Tuesday and Wednesday, and the people who play on Thursday, Arsenal will also be talking about that. And for rugby fans, we're going down to Eldoret this weekend for the Sepe Tuka Sevens. I've just been thinking about how beautiful Kerio Valley is, and let's go down to Eldoret and enjoy a bit of rugby action. For the KPL, I'll be telling you about one league, two tables later on in sports.
Right, or rather yesterday there was a press conference, and this is shame on Chan still. And ironically, we didn't see anyone put a question to Nick Mwendwa. He said if Chan doesn't happen, he will resign. Why is it that sports journalists are avoiding that question?
Actually, Ken, Edmund Nyabola did ask him that question at the presser and on NTV Sasa, and he said he will not resign because he feels FKF is not at fault. He said, yes, he said that he will resign if we do not host Chan, but he will not resign because he feels FKF is not at fault. And also, the government did say that we were ready because we had good hotels, we have good airports, good hospitals. The only things that were lacking were stadiums, and of course, football is not played in stadiums.
Clearly, we needed these stadiums before the good hotels and good roads and everything else. So we'll be talking to Warothe a little bit later on. And finally, Usha Jose is also here in studio. She'll be bringing all the entertainment. But first, the highlights, Usha.
Right, Ken, a lot happening on the entertainment scene first, and the most exciting to me, a very famous international DJ is in Kenya, and it's very low-key. People don't know why he's here. Is he here for an event or anything? People don't even know that he is around. So I am very excited. I actually feel like just letting the cat out of the bag right now, but I will keep it intact until the entertainment segment. Also, Kenya are the champions of beef, and this time it's between two artists you would never ever guess because they're not even technically from the same field of art specifically. But yes, of course, keep it NTV for the details on that. Moving further afield, Tiwa Savage has been silent for a very long time, but it was for a good reason. She's back, and her music is definitely worth the silence. I will be letting you hear snippets of the new song that she came up with. Also, Pretty Little Liars, which finally ended after a very long time. But did it really? Are they planning with the season? Is there a season 9 coming up? Is there a sequel coming up? Of course, you have to keep it right here to find out. Also, still on movies and the Hollywood seen it, the movie, which is still making airwaves because it is the talk of the town. So it's apparently just getting started. Find out what I am talking about later on. And finally, someone dethroned the Look What You Made Me Do singer. Yes, Taylor Swift is no longer atop of the charts on the top 100 Billboard. I will be telling you who. And this specific person has apparently broken several other records. Very excited to be bringing that and more stories to you. For now, it's back to you, Ken.
Right, Twisha, you just put us on the edge. We have to wait for a lot of things, but Google is our best friend. We'll be Googling which DJ is in town. Thank you, Warothe. Thank you, Hudhaifa and Usha. Will be looking forward to your reports in about 1 hour, 30 minutes. Thank you very much. All right, time now to go to court. And one of the biggest stories we're following this morning is about Babu Owino. And because of his utterances, he's in court today. We're still not sure what the charge sheet will look like, but it's about the remarks he made regarding the president. Let's just take you to court briefly and listen in.
The reason that he was taken ill, I have in my custody the medical report, attendant to the cell, and obliged that requesting that they seek referral. I have shared the same with my colleague. And in the circumstances, you're requesting that he be given another day for referral.
Yes.
Poa. Poa.
When do we come from India?
I have you obliged, Your Honor, by your
After
directive.
2 weeks.
That's convenient, Your Honor.
12th of October. Mention on 12th of October to fix a hearing date.
That's convenient, Your Honor. Most of my
Criminal case number 219 of 2017, Isaac Odiambo Otieno.
Isaac? Yes, sir. Let's finish with that. Mohammed Ali Abdikar, Hassan Edin, Shahil Dirie, Osman Abdi, Rashid Chance. Kuna mtu alikuwa anaongea kati yenu alikuwa?
I have an older question.
Amechelewa. Kama amechelewa, angeambia mwenzake amueleze coach. Hata hivyo nimesema mtarudi tarehe 3, ataeleza maelezo yake siku hiyo. Isaac Odiambo Otieno. Yes, Madam Ma'am.
All right, that is the High Court at Milimani. Babu Owino, the Embakasi East Member of Parliament who was arrested yesterday, spent a day in cell. Now he's been presented before court. The court is yet to convene. As soon as they are saying something inside the courtroom, we'll definitely go back there. But first, let's talk about the other story we're following this morning. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission wants NASA to postpone its demonstration until after tomorrow, when a meeting the commission has called with the political players is set to take place. In a letter to NASA, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati says NASA principals should attend the sitting at the Bomas of Kenya tomorrow and air its grievances before it goes to the streets, which is today. Now, NASA had earlier said that it will not attend the meeting because the IEBC had already taken position on the issues it wants addressed, as Andrew Cheng reports.
Angela.
NASA is tomorrow set to begin protests against officials in the IEBC it claims contributed to the nullification of the presidential election, while investigations into the conduct of the officials have begun through a multi-agency team comprising of police officers, prosecutors and the EACC. NASA wants more.
There must be full accountability for the August 8th election. In this regard, we demand that all the IEBC officers now under investigations must step aside or be suspended, as the case may be.
They say the demonstrations will be peaceful and the protesters will not engage in any violence or storm IEBC.
Tomorrow's demonstrations and actions are not meant to be a confrontation with anybody. We shall be exercising our constitutional right to demonstrate, to show displeasure, to picket, and to do whatever the law and the constitution allows, and show the country and the world that we do not want to follow into the matrix of doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results.
But the Commission has urged NASA to rethink its plans, at least until the meeting, which has been scheduled for Wednesday, takes place. In a letter to NASA, IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati urges the opposition to attend the meeting at Bomas of Kenya and air its grievances there. But the opposition's mind appears made up. It says in the invitation letter, IEBC had already taken strong positions on the issues. In the letter, IEBC says that the time remaining for the fresh election to be held is too short to get another supplier of the gadgets to be used to identify voters and transmit results. Apart from the staff it wants to resign, NASA has a problem with the supplier of the kits, Safran Mofo, which it says should be investigated before it is allowed to be a part of the fresh election.
We would not be where we are if their technology worked as it should have.
NASA has also taken up a new enemy, mobile service provider Safaricom, which it says contributed to the failures of the August 8th election. While it has declined to give specific allegations against the company, it says it will present its evidence in court.
They are in complicity of the conspiracy to convolute the elections, which they successfully did. And we are going to, in the course of time, give you a detailed statement of the acts and omissions of Safaricom that substantially contributed to the mess in which our election ended up.
The challenge for NASA, especially coming from their opponents, has been to ensure that the protests from tomorrow are peaceful, but the president has not been so. In the process that led to the removal of the former IEBC commissioners, lives were lost, people were injured, and every Monday all the NASA leaders were tear-gassed in Nairobi. Andrew Ochieng, NTV.
And of course, Andrew Cheng is staying with that story. We find him this morning at the Anniversary Towers. That's the IEBC headquarters. He joins us live to speak to us about what's happening. Andrew, good morning. This morning, I noticed there's quite a number of policemen around the IEBC. We haven't seen the demonstrators, but we're in studio. Tell us what's happening outside.
Well, thank you, Ken. Here at the Anniversary Towers, of course, there is a huge contingent of police officers from all departments, really. On to my right here, there are some who are seated just outside the Commission's offices, outside the Anniversary Towers. Inside, there are the anti-riot police, of course, with the tear gas canisters and of course with the shields ready for any eventualities. But remember, yesterday NASA said that they were not planning to come and storm IEBC offices. They said that that was not their intention. They said that they were just planning to have peaceful protests all in the streets of Nairobi. So we are waiting to see whether there will be any confrontations here. I remember Moses Wetangula just in that story saying that they do not intend to have any confrontations with anybody. But of course, the police are not taking anything to chance. They are here ready for any eventuality, and with their tear gas canisters and of course with their shields just ready for anything that may happen should the demonstrations come this way. But we have also been informed that the NASA principals will be having a press conference in about 30 minutes from now, so we will be heading there to listen to what they have to say and whether they are willing to renegotiate and whether they're willing to change their plans. Remember, IEBC wrote to them yesterday urging them to put off the protests for at least another day until the meeting is held tomorrow, so that if they have any of these grievances can be aired during that meeting, which will be held at the Bomas of Kenya. Ken?
Demonstration was organized from last week, and we're still not sure what NASA is going to say, but from what you're seeing, does it look like there's a crowd that is forming around the IBC?
Sorry, Ken, I didn't get that.
All right, the question is, we know that this demonstration was announced last week. In fact, when they said it, they said there will be storming to remove the IBC officials, and we know NASA has a press conference, but are you seeing any crowd forming around the IBC, or everyone is keeping off?
Well, there has been no crowds, of course, here. It is just the police and, of course, the journalists, many local and international who have gathered here. No crowds yet. In fact, earlier on, we were trying to talk to some sources within NASA, trying to find out where the protests would begin from, where they would be marching from as they head to the town, to the CBD, and in any other places where they will be demonstrating. But no one yet confirmed to us where the marches will be and how the demonstration will be proceeding. So far, there have been no crowds here, no gatherings here, just the police and the journalists who have gathered here.
All right. Andrew Cheng, thank you very much. We'll be checking back with you even as you head to NASA. I think it's either Okwa, Kenya, or whatever the will be, Andrew. We'll try and get back to you and listen into what NASA is saying. I have lawyers in studio. We'll be talking about the Legal Aid Week. But let me just show you pictures live from Kisumu, because even as Nairobi prepares to demonstrate, those are live pictures from Kisumu. Already there's demonstration in Kisumu, and this is all about the removal of the IBC officers. Those are live pictures. Oko Kusa, as we said earlier, is monitoring what's happening in Kisumu together with other teams, Mwangangi in Mombasa, and of course, Lois Wangoi in Eldoret. But that's Kisumu. As soon as we have Oko Kusa on air, we'll be speaking to him. And those are live pictures. We'll just keep them on split screen as we speak to the lawyers here about the Legal Aid Week, because I have to let them go and do their other duties, including giving free aid to you at the Milimani Law Courts. And of course, let me welcome them. Harriet Chigai. Harriet Chigai is a council member of the Law Society of Kenya. She joins us, and also Caroline Amondi, who is the Acting Director, National Legal Aid Services from the Attorney General's Office. It's the first time I'm having two ladies without a gentleman, so it's really good to have you this morning. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, it's our pleasure to be here.
All right, let me start with Harriet. About the Legal Aid Week, as a lawyer, what essentially is happening at the Milimani Law Courts today?
Thank you, Mijungu. Largely what the lawyers are doing is to offer free, or rather pro bono legal services to the common mwananchi. The essence of the legal aid is basically the Law Society of Kenya is one of its mandates is to ensure that we have legal literacy amongst the Kenyans, or rather the common mwananchi. As you know, it's important to have knowledge. Only then can you be in control of your life. Okay. So part of our mandate is actually to promote legal literacy and advocacy. And so that is what legal aid is all about.
What essentially is happening, Harriet, is you as lawyers have gone and sat at Milimani Law Court and sort of opened kiosks so that any member of public who is seeking legal advice comes to talk to you.
Very correct, and it's lawyers and their partners as well. So you'll find institutions like FIDA Kenya having a desk, Kituo cha Sheria having a desk. These are our partners in terms of how we engage in terms of legal aid clinic. And you'll find they all offer something on the table in terms of legal advice across board, both civil and criminal litigation.
All right. Yeah. And of course, your other partner is the Attorney General's Office, and that's where Caroline comes in. Caroline, what is your role as the AG's office in this Awareness Week?
Thank you, Ken. As the Office of the Attorney General, we are mandated both under the Constitution, Article 48, that requires the government to facilitate access to justice for all, and to ensure that where a fee is required, then such fee is reasonable and does not impede access to justice.
Okay.
So from that very article, we derived the Legal Aid Act, which was enacted last year in 2016, that provides a legal and institutional framework for provision of legal aid in Kenya.
Okay.
So during the Legal Awareness Week by the Law Society of Kenya, we partner with LSK as well as other stakeholders in the justice sector to provide legal aid to Wanjiko, essentially to create awareness about their rights, and where somebody has a matter in court and is not represented by an advocate, then they can access our services, and we offer them for free.
Okay.
The Office of Attorney General has been doing that. Formerly, we did it under the Ministry of Justice, and we've continued to do that. Let me just say that in the last financial year alone, we were able to offer legal aid to 11,096.
That's as the AG's office?
That is the Office of the Attorney General.
Okay.
Yes, because this is our constitutional mandate. So we are in a process as the National Legal Aid Service to roll out our services nationwide.
Okay.
Currently, we are in 5 towns, or in 5 counties. That is in Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, and Nairobi.
So this is happening simultaneously, not only in Nairobi, but other parts of the country?
Yes, in all the 8 towns where the Law Society of Kenya has its chapters.
All right.
But for the Office of the Attorney General, in all the 5 towns where we currently are providing those services.
All right.
Yes.
I'm interested to know what kind of issues people come with, and I'll talk to Harriet about this. What are the issues when you're sitting on your desks do people come with? Is it the understanding of the law? Is it how much justice costs in this country? What essentially are you hearing from them?
Mijungu, you'll notice that most Kenyans are not empowered by knowledge. So you'll receive all manner of issues, from ongoing cases, complaints about even how their cases have been handled. You'll receive desperate cases whereby most of these Kenyans cannot even afford legal representation. And such cases, you find that we create a database and we forward them to institutions that can actually handle.
Okay.
The society also has a pool of pro bono lawyers, where we also send some of these cases to them for actualization and actually for them to be presented in court and for proper representation for these particular individuals. You'll also realize you will also receive complaints or individuals who have members in prison.
Okay.
And all they want is advice in terms of how do they handle certain issues, where they still feel that the case was not handled properly, where do they go, what next?
Okay.
So the kind of cases that we receive, or rather the kind of people who appear in our desks, cut across board, both from fresh cases that need to go to court, land-related issues, family-related issues, women-related issues, ongoing cases. So it cuts across board. Criminal, most individuals, most Kenyans don't even know their rights.
Okay.
In terms of as accused person, they don't.
So they come there and ask about their rights?
Oh yes. Most Kenyans just want information. You'll find most want information, and a good number also wants representation.
Okay. I want your experience, Caroline, having done this probably for some time, between the old constitution and the new constitution, and with the awareness of the rights, ability to institute proceeding in court granted to everyone now, are Kenyans increasingly becoming proactive, so they need a lot of advice also on how to be proactive in terms of litigation?
Yes, Ken, that's a very correct observation. As Kenyans become more aware about their rights and the avenues through which they can agitate or assert or claim these rights, we are finding that the numbers we are attending to is increasing on a day-to-day basis. The current constitution, unlike the previous constitution, the independence constitution, did not obligate government to offer legal aid to citizens.
Okay.
The old constitution only spoke of legal aid to those charged with capital offenses. That was essentially murder. But you find that even though it spoke of capital offenses, legal aid was administered through the judiciary, the Pauper Brief Scheme, and it was essentially to those charged with murder.
That is
so
where you come to court and you're told you are entitled to an advocate.
Yes, so you'd find a judge just appointing an advocate seated there that take up this matter. It was not really structured as such.
Okay.
And while those charged with robbery with violence, remember the sentence is the same, both are capital offenses. They were not granted legal aid as a matter of right. But under the current constitution, government is obligated, not just in criminal matters, but also in civil matters. So we have a lot of family-related cases. The more most of these societal relations are being governed by law now, so is the more we also have many people approaching us for legal aid.
It's important to notice how much the country has grown in the new constitution. In fact, even if you see what's happening on your screen, the demonstrations, that is a kind of awareness. The fact that Kenyans know that I can safely go to the streets and demonstrate and get police protection. These are some of the things. But most importantly, if you pick the conversation from there, Harriet, for example, the people there, do they understand that they can, instead of even going to the streets, they can go to court to petition on some of these things? Is that a sense that you also get when you speak to people during the Legal Awareness Week, that they do understand their rights across the board?
One thing I'll tell you, Billy, Mijungu,
Billy is good because he's my
brother. One thing I'll tell you for sure is that Kenyans are becoming more aware. That is for sure. The other thing that you'll realize is that the kind of energy that is expensed out there is a clear indication that Kenyans are no longer just the Kenyans they were 10 years ago.
Yes.
It then means the coming of the new constitution has also bridged in, and people are now more aware of their constitutional rights.
Okay.
The other issue that I need to point out is that you realize there are still new emerging issues in terms of the law enforcement. You have also seen that the common mwananchi has been affected across board. And things to do with litigation in terms of public interest litigation, where legal aid also comes in terms of institutions which are taking up these matters on public interest litigation. You can clearly see that Kenyans have evolved. We are now becoming very litigious, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing.
Okay. Yes. So one of the interesting things about what you're doing with the Legal Awareness Week is that you are offering the advices for free. Lawyers are not cheap.
For sure.
And they're not easy to hire. So how do you reconcile the fact that you are paid to do your work, and this week, the whole week, you're sitting there probably away from your law firms to offer legal advices for free? How do you reconcile that?
One thing I must tell you, Mijungu, is that lawyers are very good people. And you'll realize the amount of time put in any particular case is a lot of time. For instance, drawing up a judgment of more than 200 pages, you've just seen it within a span of a short period of time with research and all that. It takes a lot. But again, there's the element of CSR, you know? What can we do to return to the society? This is the society we all live in. And these people who are affected cut across board. Tomorrow it can be me, tomorrow it can be my sister. And again, you'll realize the essence of creating legal awareness and advocacy is simple. The more we have Kenyans educated, they'll be in control of their space.
Okay.
And I think it's advantageous, not only to the advocates themselves, but to everybody. It's important that we have this information.
So regardless whether they're getting paid or not, you will do this?
Why not? Why not?
Okay. I'd like to talk to you more about the list of pro bono lawyers in the LSK list, because you're a council member. But let me talk about the fact that they're going there and doing this for free. From the AG, you support the LSK in any way, materially, for doing this?
The Office of the Attorney General as I said earlier on, is mandated to provide legal aid. So we partner with the Law Society of Kenya through their pro bono lawyers. We also have our database of pro bono lawyers who offer services for free. But that won't be the case in the near future, because government is going to facilitate these lawyers to offer these services. So a case in point, let me speak of Mombasa, where we pilot on robbery with violence, capital offences. So where the lawyers offer the pro bono services, there is a honorarium of sort that is given to the advocates once the matter is concluded.
Okay.
The Law Society of Kenya is also a member of our board. So they sit in the National Legal Aid Service Board to offer the technical support, because as you know, you cannot push the legal aid agenda without lawyers, because law is about technicalities, and it is these lawyers who are trained in the technicalities and in law, as it were. But we are also championing the use of paralegals, not just advocates, but the use of paralegals. In all these professions, we have the medics, we have the nurses, we have the community, the clinical officers, we have the doctors. So even for us, we are championing the use of paralegals in the push of issues to do with access to justice, so that we have people who are based, community-based, to advocate the issues for the community, and also to create awareness amongst the members of the community. What are your rights? And more importantly, what are your obligations? Because more often than not, we emphasize on people's rights without telling them what their obligations are. So as the Office of the Attorney General, we are using that to a two-pronged approach, using the lawyers as well as using the paralegals to champion issues to do with access to justice.
There's a time a friend of mine asked me about the training of paralegals.
Yes.
Which institutions, for example, offer training to the paralegals?
Yes, that is a very good question for the time we are in now, because we are currently developing a curriculum, which then we'll have to put through a stakeholder consultation process to ensure then that we have a standardized curriculum for training of paralegals. Currently, what we have is the training under the Kenya School of Law, which is mainly for institutional paralegals, those who are, for example, based in the courts or in offices of lawyers, in law firms. But those community paralegals, not yet. But we have civil society organizations that train their paralegals. So it is not structured, and that is where we come in. Under the Act, we are mandated to develop that curriculum in consultation with the Council for Legal Education to ensure that we have a standardized training curriculum for paralegals.
So it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
It's going to happen. A lot of work has been done. We know that the paralegals under their umbrella, PASUNE, they have developed a curriculum for themselves, but we know we have to adopt that as the National Legal Aid Service, and then in consultation with the Council for Legal Education, then see how to come up with one regulation and one curriculum to then guide the training of paralegals.
All right, that's a good development, because I had a direct question from a friend of mine some time ago where they can get training as paralegals. On his split screen are pictures from the county of Kisumu. That is the demonstrations. The IBC and the IBC officials, we're keeping it in check. That's why we're keeping it on split screen. Andrew Cheng is at the anniversary towers. We'll be checking with Andrew again what's happening there. We expect a press conference by NASA anytime. He said in 30 minutes. That's about 15 minutes now left. As soon as we have all those details, we will get to them. But the reason why we're keeping that split screen, so that you know that in Nairobi they're preparing, in Kisumu they're already on the streets with the demonstrations. And I have lawyers here in studio with me talking about the Legal Awareness Week. This is the only time I guarantee you will talk to a lawyer without paying. So if you have issues, you go to the, it's at Milimani, right? At Milimani. It's happening the whole week. And there's several questions. And one of the questions that I want to put to Harriet is, how do you get to this pool of pro bono lawyers? As a council member, I presume even in the absence of Mercy, who is the CEO, you can speak the council positions, about between 10 and 13,000 paying members, right? So how do you get to that pool of pro bono?
One thing I must tell you is that the active membership of the society is about 8,000 plus.
Active meaning paying?
Yes.
Okay.
And you'll realize that out of that, about maybe 4,000, 5,000 are legal practitioners, the court attending advocates. And out of that, cutting across the country, and just like we had earlier mentioned, that the legal aid is running across the country. Our branch office is managing this through the branch chairman and other officials. You'll realize last year alone, we had about between 1,500 to 2,000 registering to offer pro bono services. Nairobi alone registered more than 1,000.
Okay.
Our satellite offices, in terms of the branch offices with their membership, which is usually less than 1,000, cutting across, depending on which counties had, the list was almost 88. So you find that this issue of pro bono is as pro bono as it can get, is you as an individual accepting to give the free legal services. It is not forced.
It's not forced. So how many lawyers do you have at Milimani this week?
Yesterday we registered more than 100, which was day one.
Okay.
Today we expect to have more.
Okay.
And aside from activities at Milimani, we also have prison visits.
Okay.
And we started the prison visits last year, which have actually borne fruits. This year we're also doing the visits to prisons, and it's across the country. So Nairobi will visit the women prisons. We'll go to...
What are you doing at the prisons?
We actually, the main objective is to interact with the incarcerated members.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's important because there are new developments in law. For instance, currently we have the plea bargain agreements, which is something that I can assure you not Kenyans are not aware. And the society actually started a program with the US government in terms of enlightening the members, the mwananchis who are incarcerated, on how to go about plea bargains. And you see, this is an emerging issue in law, that if we don't get out there and educate the mwananchi on the same, no one will get to know that these things are in existence.
It's a huge practice abroad in the US. It's a big thing, plea bargaining, but in Kenya it's still not taken root. In fact, people don't even know. They don't even know the advantages of plea bargaining. I'd like you to explain that. But if you look at your spread screen, we have changed. We're not in Kisumu, we are at Milimani. And there are two things happening in Milimani today that will attract your attention if you get to the courts. One is what's going on currently, and that is the case involving Babu Owino, the Embakasi East Member of Parliament, for the kind of words he uttered concerning the president. And we're still waiting for the charge sheet. As soon as we have it, we'll read it to you. But that's what's happening. One of the issues at the Milimani Law Courts. The other is the Legal Awareness Week, and that's what we're talking about here. So Harriet, explain to us how plea bargaining works, because I would understand, but a lot of people will not understand. In fact, if you got someone to the dock, if you told someone, this is, you can do this, they will be resistant because they don't understand. So I think that's the reason why you are explaining this to the prisoners, for example. Yeah.
Plea bargaining is a very new concept in this country. Section 137 of the Criminal Procedure Code actually gave the ODPP the leeway to come up with plea bargain guidelines, which were actually passed sometime last year. That is why I'm telling you these are new emerging issues, and it's important that we enlighten the prisoners on how to go about this, because one, it saves a lot of time,
for the court
time,
yes,
and two, you actually have an advantage of negotiating
your sentence,
yes, your freedom if need be, and all that. So it's important that this knowledge is out there, and you'll realize that there are principles set for plea bargaining. First, currently under the criminal proceedings, you'll realize we have now three types of pleas. Previously it was two, either guilty or not guilty.
Yes.
But this time around we have either guilty, not guilty, and the new one is not guilty pending the plea bargaining agreement. So you find it's interesting that the law is evolving, and it's important that we get this information out there. One thing for sure, for you to enter into any plea bargaining agreement, it has to be voluntary. it has to be properly engaged both at the DP's level, the ODPP's office level, and the investigating officers. It's not something that can be done off the cuff. So it's well institutionalized, I must say.
I'm tempted, Harriet, to explain what plea bargaining, but trust me, you haven't explained what plea bargaining is. You have given us the concept, the principle, but what is plea bargaining?
Basically, plea bargaining is where you enter into an agreement.
Give us an example of an offense and how you would plea bargaining will suffice.
Let me say you're robbery with violence.
Yes. Capital offense.
Or actually, capital offense
yes.
is exempted. And you find that you have an option. You have an option of either going through the full trial or entering into the plea bargaining agreement. Now, what then happens is you'll be well informed, and it's up to you to make the choice.
Okay.
You know, and where you appear in court and the court refuses to take the plea bargaining agreement as signed, then the full trial suffices.
Okay.
So plea bargaining is not a given per se. The court also has a say. And on the other hand, basically, it's whereby you enter into some sort of agreement on if you're guilty, then what next? Can you negotiate a lower sentence? And so basically, that is the essence, to negotiate your sentence.
All right. And
on a plea of guilty. Yeah,
you just plead guilty?
Yes.
Carol, this was done obviously in conjunction with your office, because it has to happen also. It has to cut across the stakeholders, right?
Yes, I think we attended one of the fora that was held by the U.S. Department of Justice and the Office of the Director of Public. Yes. So, but currently, we are only offering legal aid in criminal matters in Mombasa.
Right.
That is where we have the capital offences project. But we are working towards now, once we set up all the systems in place, to then offer it nationwide. So you don't have to be in Mombasa to be granted legal aid in criminal matters.
All right.
So we are putting up the regulations. This will then enable us to bring on board the accredited legal aid providers, who will then provide legal aid along with the in-house advocates who are going to be recruited to undertake the legal aid services.
All right, just stay with me, ladies, because I want to take you briefly to the Milimani Law Courts, and the pictures on your screen is the current proceeding going there. We have obtained the charge sheet, and I'm going to read it for you, what Babu Winu is charged of. On the 24th day of September 2017, that's about 3 days ago. Just lost it briefly. Let me find it. Okay, it's right here. That's about 3 days ago at a stage 46 in Kawangware, Dagoretti North Sub-County within Nairobi County, without lawful excuse, uttered the words kama Gaddafi alitolewa na wananchi, kama Gabo alitolewa na wananchi, kama ya Jame alitolewa na wananchi, wewe ni nani? Then he said, wewe ni mtoto wa mbwa, which words were calculated to excite disaffection against the presidency. Now, he's being accused of exciting words that were circulated, and they were supposed to excite disaffection against the presidency. Let's take you to the court and listen briefly.
Yes.
Your Honor, my name is Nicholas Motuko, DDPP. For the prosecution, I appear together with Alois Kemo, SLDPP, Catherine Moniki.
You appear with?
Mr. Alois Kemo, SLDPP, Catherine Moniki, LDPP, Duncan Odimo, PPC, and Agatha.
Duncan Odimo is?
Agatha.
The title of Duncan Odimo is?
Sorry?
Duncan Odimo.
Yes, that is PPC.
Then?
And Agatha Kapang.
Agatha? I'm not getting the second
Abang.
name.
Abang.
Designation?
PC.
Yes.
Your plea having been taken, we have instructions to oppose the release of the accused person on bond or bail.
Your Honor, could it be allowed to first to make that application? Because it may not be necessary, but probably it may be necessary. Yeah. Subject to your Honor's direction.
Yes. You have any problem with that, Mr. Mtuku?
Yeah, Your Honor, I think we have a duty to discharge under Article 49.
Yes.
But you have to give directions who has to start.
We've got a right of reply.
Because I need to have a right of reply once I make this application. And we hear from the defense. Because the onus is on us to prove that there are compelling reasons to deny the accused person bond. Which I desire to discharge.
Yes.
Your Honor, we are entitled to make that application. It's only when there is a formal application for bail, then the prosecution can respond to that application. And it should not be taken for granted that the court itself may grant bail without a formal application for bail. Once that application for bail is made, then the prosecution, if it had any reasons for grant of bail, advance any reasons, including the ones he's alluding to. But the proper procedure would have been, if he wanted to make such an application in which he cites compelling reasons, and I think that is being cited on account of Article 49 of the Constitution, which relates to rights of arrested persons. And it talks of the right of an arrested person to be brought to court as soon as is reasonably possible, but not later than 24 hours. In circumstances, Your Honor, and I think this is important, in circumstances in which the prosecution is not able to bring somebody within 24 hours, or has brought such a person within 24 hours, and requires that person to be held until further orders of the court. Then there are only two alternatives. One, that application should be brought before charge with a formal application accompanied by an affidavit which...
Sorry, Senior, the application for?
The application to hold their person in custody.
Yes.
For purposes of compelling, because there are compelling reasons. That normally should be brought before the accused person is charged. And spell out what are those compelling reasons. And normally that application should come out by way of affidavit, those compelling reasons, and the accused person would be able to respond to those reasons as borne out by the facts. Now, we're in a very awkward position because that application is going to be made from the bar. There is no affidavit. There is no formal application demonstrating that there are those compelling reasons. But my Lord, Your Honor, I'm saying if this application was properly made, then it should have been made before the person in the dock had not transited from being an arrested person to an accused person. Now is an accused person.
Yes.
But now that he's been formally charged, the prosecution has to wait until there's a formal application for bail or bond. Unless the court had so more to either granted that bail or intimated that it was going to grant that bail. And because bail is such a fundamental instrument in our constitutional order for purposes of anchoring one of the fundamental pillars of our criminal law and criminal justice system that has been upheld over ages, since the Magna Carta, since the 13th century, the presumption of innocence. You know, in our submission, in order to go against this very fundamental right and instrument of not only the Constitution but our Bill of Rights. And Your Honor, you know what the Constitution says about our Bill of Rights as contained in Article 19 of the Constitution, that it is an integral part of Kenya's democratic state. That is a very fundamental statement. So that when you want to deny somebody bail or bond, which is a right by itself in the Bill of Rights, but also is an anchor towards the protection of the right in relation to the principle of presumption of innocence. It'd not be right for the prosecutor just to stand up and say, I am opposing bail, there's no material before you, and say there are compelling reasons, there's no material before you. You should wait until we address you on the question of bail. And if there were any compelling reasons, that is an application which should have been made before the person in the dock had been charged. Your Honor, and I'd invite Your Honor to juxtapose what is in Article 49 in relation to the right of an arrested person, and more particularly if you look at Article 1, Article 49, sub-Article 1, F, and G, and probably H, and then juxtapose that with what is contained in Article 50. Under G, 49, 1G, it contemplates about the first appearance of an accused person in court, and being charged, and Your Honor, that those two provisions, G and H, should be read holistically with the Bill of Rights as a whole and the purpose and intent of Article 49, which is to protect the right of arrested persons as opposed to accused persons. That's all. This is just coming on. Yeah, this is.
I wish to say something before you give directions.
Let me just give directions so that we...
Most obliged.
Right, live pictures there from the Milimani Law Courts. That's where Babu Owino has been presented. We read to you the charge sheet earlier, but basically it's about incitement to violence following the words here uttered on the 24th regarding President Uhuru Kenyatta. We'll read the charge sheet again later on, but time now for a short break. And as we go to break, these are some of the stories that we're still following up and events that we're following up. One, in Kisumu, we have the protest already underway. We'll be linking up with Oko Kusa a little bit later on to talk to him about what's happening and what the people in Kisumu are saying. Lois Wangoi is on standby in our Eldoret studio. She is rather speaking to a lawyer in studio. We'll be getting to Lois in the next few minutes or so. And finally, the High Court where Babu Owino has been presented. We'll try and make sense of what's happening there. Plus, NASA is expected to hold a press conference, and Andrew Chieng is reporting on that later on. But first, we take a short break. When we come back, we'll conclude our discussion right here about the Legal Awareness Week with my panel. Stay with us.
This is NTV.
Tim, one of the world's most iconic big tuskers, was darted and collared.
An elephant like Tim will constantly find himself interacting with people, and of course maize and potatoes. So he has taken to raiding some of the farms. We sat with the KWS on the ground and they said, look, if we can put a radio collar on Tim, we know where he is, we can stop him from going into farms. Tim will have 24/7 protection.
Having this collar around an elephant's neck is something very unnatural.
We have to do that if we want to keep these animals alive.
Is this the way forward though, Paula?
And that, I think, is the solution that Kenya needs. So we can't afford to keep letting elephants down.
NTV Wild Talk, in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife.
Right, welcome back. This is Decision 2017 NTV Today. My name is Ken Mijungu, and this morning several things going on around you. We are live from Kisumu, live from the High Court, live from Mombasa, and from Eldoret, where Lois Wangoi will be speaking to us in a short while. But right here in studio, we want to conclude our discussion on the Legal Awareness Week. What you must know as you undertake your daily activities, you need to make time and go there, especially if you don't know how the court system works. And that's the discussion we're having here with Harriet and Caroline from the AG's office. And ladies, before I let you go, talk to us, Harriet, about the expectation at the end of the legal week. What do you seek to have achieved with this?
Basically, we want to achieve more numbers in terms of the common wananchi, in terms of them being aware of their rights. We want to create legal sobriety amongst the Kenyan people and advocacy. And also would wish to see a good number of Kenyans making their way to Milimani. That is the only way we can also know that we have reached out to a good number of Kenyans.
Okay.
And for me, I would advise them that this is the only opportunity within a year to actually receive free legal advice and pro bono services.
Okay.
So my advice to the Kenyans is that make your way to Milimani.
All right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just end with the legal advice. You're telling me earlier that, in fact, their cases can be followed.
Yes, it doesn't end there because just like I had mentioned earlier, we have partners where and our biggest partners first are the pro bono advocates, one. And then two, we have institutions. I mentioned Kituo cha Sheria, which takes up land-related matters, employment-related matters. So we are able to forward a good number there, and they also have a stand.
Okay.
So Kenyans should actually take time and head there. We also have FIDA. FIDA largely takes women-related matters. So it's important that Kenyans actually take advantage of this week.
Okay.
And make their way to Milimani.
All right, and Caroline, as we conclude at the end of the day, what is the measure of success for the Legal Awareness Week?
For me, the measure of success would be one, if the ordinary Wanjiko would be able to understand the court processes, understand the law, understand how to avail opportunities under the law, and also be able to advocate for their rights. So if an ordinary citizen were to be able, for example, to go to court, assert their rights, and come out with a just outcome, for me that would be a success for this Legal Awareness Week.
Okay.
So yes, awareness and the capacity, if an ordinary citizen capacity can be built to agitate for their own rights, for me, that would be a success.
All right.
Yes.
And I saw an earlier question from Twitter asking me, Harriet, what of people who cannot access it right now? Does it continue beyond here, or it ends when the week ends?
Well, one thing I can tell you for sure, just like I mentioned, we have a pool of pro bono advocates. Any Kenyan who have issues can actually make their way to the society, and we have branch offices cutting across. Present your case. Once it's analyzed at the secretariat level, it can then be forwarded to the respective organizations and or individual advocates who can actually take up those matters. So it's important that you can only know if you find out.
Okay.
So step out and get to find information as Kenyans.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned 5 regions where you are present right now as the AG's office. Which ones are these?
Yes, so the Office of the Attorney General, the National Legal Aid Service, we have 5 offices around the country. So we have one here in Nairobi at Kenya Charity Sweepstake House, the 9th and 10th floor. In Eldoret, we have it at Keptagich House. That is where the central bank is in Eldoret. The
right
8th floor.
Along Uganda, Nairobi Road.
Yes, quite in an accessible area around the CBD in Eldoret. Then in Nakuru, we have it at Belfer House. That is also just close to the courts. In Mombasa, we have them at the Department of Children's Services. So Betting and Licensing Board, that is where we are housed. And in Kisumu, we are at what we from people in Kisumu, we call it the Mugoya, the Pieces Building. So that is where we have our legal aid offices.
Okay.
And just to chip in what my colleague Harriet had talked about, I think citizens also need to understand that they have a partner in the government of Kenya.
Okay.
The government is taking up its mandate seriously, and that's why we now have the National Legal Aid Service that is going to roll out these services, decentralize them and roll them out nationwide.
Okay.
So beyond the Legal Awareness Week, the government is continuing to offer legal aid in the 5 towns I've talked about on a day-to-day basis. So we offer legal aid in an array of matters.
All right.
So I would urge Wanjiko to avail themselves of the services that the government is offering. The government is here for them, and they should therefore avail of those services. But allow me, Ken, also to just thank our partners.
Yeah.
The U.S. Department of Justice, Harriet had talked about, who are championing the plea bargaining agreement, which is a new thing in the country.
Okay.
We also have the European Union that has really funded us in a major way in the past, and also under the 11th EDF, we are currently designing a very huge program under the European Union to fund legal aid in Kenya.
Okay.
But beyond that, I would also urge that the government also puts in additional funds for legal aid so that we have the principle of parity in play. Yeah, because remember, legal aid does not just take care of the criminal matters. We are doing both criminal and civil.
Yeah.
So we are looking at what is the budget that the government gives to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution as against to what is the budget that the Office of the Attorney General is given to fund legal aid. So there should be a parity of sorts in terms of funding, because it will just be really a pipe dream for citizens if there is no funding to then back that obligation of government to facilitate access to justice. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, in 1 minute, 8 offices where LSK is present. Where are these that after this we can still find people going to in the region? Okay.
We have a branch office in Mombasa. We are in Kisumu. We have North Rift, Eldoret. We have a branch in Kisii. We also South Rift. So members can actually reach out Kakamega County. We have a branch office there. So members can actually, any mwananchi within those counties can actually have recourse.
All right.
Yeah.
I want to take
and
this
Nairobi.
opportunity. All right. And Nairobi, obviously, and it's the biggest.
Yes, and it's the biggest.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Harriet Chigai, for speaking to us. She is a council member, the Law Society of Kenya, and Caroline Amondi, also the acting director, National Legal Aid Services from the AG's office. Thank you, ladies, for coming and sharing. And remember, at the Milimani Law Court right here in Nairobi, the legal week continues, but the 8 places and obviously in the 5 regions, 5 areas where the AG's office is present. This continues. It doesn't end at the end of the legal week. But if you need those services today and between today and the end of the week, you can definitely go to the Milimani Law Courts and get this. Thank you so much, Harriet, and thank you, Caroline. And as the ladies leave, let me speak to Kennedy Mureithi, who is replacing Andrew Chieng at the Anniversary Towers. Good morning. Is it afternoon? No, it's still morning. Good morning, Kennedy. And tell us what's happening at Anniversary. Earlier, there was not much activity, but now we understand there's some activity right there.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Is that at this particular time, there is still not so much activity, but we can see crowds actually moving and actually increasing.
All right, we're having a challenge with Ken Mureizi's signal at the Anniversary Towers, where there should be quite some police and citizenry presence due to the demonstration that currently is going on in Kisumu. We have live pictures from Kisumu. I don't know if you can pull them up. We have demonstrations in Kisumu going on right now. Those are the pictures from Kisumu, where we see quite a number of people demonstrating. We are still trying to get hold of Oko Kusa to explain to us what exactly is happening and what they are saying. Right here in Nairobi, we expect a press conference by Raila Odinga and the team of NASA leadership, who will be speaking about this protest today. And obviously, right here in Nairobi, we expect some activity at the Milimani Law Courts. There are already some activity. Legal Aid Week is going on, and obviously, we also have the case involving Babu Owino also going on at the Milimani Law Court. So we'll try and get and make sense of what's happening all over the nation and around you regarding this planned protest and how they're happening. Kennedy Mureithi is still at the Anniversary Towers. As soon as we are able to get Kennedy Mureithi, we'll be speaking to him. But right now in Eldoret, Lois Wangoi is getting ready also to join us with the panel. She'll be discussing about what's happening around the country with all this different interpretation of the Constitution, with all these things that are being said around these demonstrations, legal or otherwise. And later on, George Msamadi is a security analyst. He's joining me in studio to talk about VIP protection. We understand this morning that the security detail attached to Kalonzo Musyoka, who's the NASA running mate for the presidential candidate, Raila Odinga, who also incidentally has his security withdrawn, unconfirmed reports, but it's all over the media. There are some mainstream medias confirming that right now. We try and make sense of VIP protection in this country and why this usually happens during demonstrations. That coming a little bit later. But first, let's take you to Eldoret, where Lois Wangoi is now standing by. Lois?
Thank you, Ken. Good morning to you, and of course to you, dear viewer. From our Eldoret studios in the county of Uasin Gishu, we also followed through the conversations pretty much in the country, even as the country gears towards a presidential poll, but one that is full of theatrics. With me in studio, Advocate Colin Zakenga. Thank you very much for joining us. And Dr. Lumala Masibo, Senior Lecturer of Moi University, to start with this conversation. We start with what's happening at Kilimani Law Courts, proceeding to hear the matter about Embakasi East MP Babu Owino, of course, with regards statements he made towards the presidency. What's your reaction on the same? Is this an isolated case, or is it indeed that Babu Owino is a reflection of the society we have become?
Let me take it up. I think what Babu Owino might have said, it was not very good, if that's what he said. And but then I want to take it that Babu Owino is undergoing a transition. He's coming from student leadership at the university, and he must learn very quickly that the leadership at the university is not the same leadership at the national level. At your end, you could be able to say something nasty, and you will become a darling of the. Actually, you become a darling of the students. But in national politics, one is now becoming a role model, and there are many young people who are looking to him. And you know, the days when they used to say the youth are the future leaders, we are now seeing young people becoming leaders. And the rest of the country, especially the youth in this country, will be looking to Babu Owino. I'm sure university leaders in other universities are hoping that one day they can also be MPs. But I don't think we want to start off with an example like this one of Babu Owino. And most significantly, I think I want to also just say that Babu Owino reminds me of Ababu Namwamba in 2007. 2008, because when Ababu Namwamba was elected MP for Budalangi, he refused to swear in the name of the President Mwai Kibaki by then, and he was using Raila Odinga. We have come a full circle, and we now know where Ababu Namwamba is, and where he stands currently, even in terms of politics. He's not even an MP. So I really think it's important that when young people get an opportunity to provide leadership, they should set a good example.
Advocate Akenga, do you think, do I call him honorable, Babu Owino is just indisciplined, or it has something to do with his age?
I think, I will not really say indisciplined. Maybe I will say the rate of politics. Some politicians that are brutal. Because you see, when you insult the president, you're not insulting the person of Uhuru Kenyatta, you're insulting him as the president. And you know, the meaning of a president is a symbol of national unity. Therefore, there are charges that they are preferred against you as having insulted a certain symbol of national unity. And remember, even just in our neighbor here, neighboring country, Tanzania, you've heard that people have been taken to court over the charges that have insulted the president. So it is a way, you know, you have had many politicians just saying insults, but you should take it differently. What are you saying? Is it that you are talking of high priest of corruption, chief priest of poverty, or what? Or are you insulting someone to an extent that you are going deeper into his or her parents? You see, what Baba Wino did does not really agger well. It goes deep to someone's parents, and that's indeed, it's a wrong shot to the useful, as my colleague has said, to the useful politicians.
But let me stop you at the point of parents. It's not the first time we did hear Honorable Duale at some point attacking ex-governor Bomet County, telling him he pesa siya mama yako. So this is the second time parents are being brought into.
And you know, those are the same politicians I'm talking about. That's what I've said. It's a group of politicians who have accustomed themselves to using such type of insults so that they can gain political mileage.
Yeah, in fact, what I've seen on social media, it's like while Jubilee have Moses Kuria, then NASA now have Babu Wino. And you see, for a very long time, we have tolerated Moses Kuria. He's taken to court today, tomorrow he's out, and he says worse of things than what he said the previous day. And that is, it's becoming part of our national fabric, which is, I think is terrible.
And to some extent, are we allowing the elements of just, I don't want to call it criminality, lest I fall into some legal traps, but elements of indiscipline into the country's leadership?
Yes and no. Yes, because I think what we have done, and I want to be very sincere, we as a people ourselves are to blame for some of these things. That we seem to make heroes and heroines out of people who do not necessarily measure up to the chapter 6 of our constitution in terms of integrity. And to that extent, I also have problems with IEBC in the process, because I think at no time during the vetting process, when we had the nominations for candidates, we did not see anybody anywhere coming out to say we have rejected this person on the basis of the information we have from the CID, the information we have from EACC, the information we have from the Commission for University Education. We did not see that. And do you think that all these gentlemen and ladies are honorable enough and that they are clean?
My colleague, you will not say that you have a problem with IBC because of that, because IBC only relies on information that has been given. Now, if at all you have got papers from EACC that have cleared you, what do IBC have to do? They have to follow an institution has said that you are clean.
Excellent.
And you go, they say that you do not have any criminal record. IBC has nothing to do. They cannot search and investigate.
Actually, it's good that you have said that, because I think I have a problem even with EACC. I want to apply for a job in the county, for example. And all I need to do is to walk to the EACC offices, get the forms, go to Collins Agenga for commission of oath, he rubber stamps it, I take it back, and you call me clean. Is that how we should be conducting the whole issue of checking one's integrity?
And interestingly, so Kenyans, we seem to be dramatic, even at our own level, away from these national institutions. Because I remember sometime last year, we did a story about a quack or a fake doctor in the county of Nandi. He had even gone ahead to do some medical procedures, and he had lost one life. But immediately after we did the story, he became this national hero. There was a welcome party for him. Are we addicted to drama?
Yes. In fact, you look at whatever that happens, not only in Kenya, I think it has gone global. And I will tell you that people will want to hear the bad things that you, Lois, you have committed or you have happened to engage in than hearing about the good news. That is generally what's acceptable. And even when you look at Trump, the president of the United States, what his campaign team did was to ensure that they're releasing the bad things about Trump, whatever happened, so that when that thing comes to the public, people will want to know, what is this? What is this? So then Trump will be known more than when you say, you know, Trump has been a...
And then I think also, apart from being dramatic, we are known for being very diversionary. I think we are perfecting the art of avoiding the current issues, focusing on the issues at hand, and then we want to introduce side shows that then take away the focus from what we should be discussing at the moment, and then we end up with focusing on side shows that are irrelevant, and we forget about the mainstream news that we should be focusing on.
True, and now back to mainstream. I think you are also being diversionary. Yes, Dr. Results are anything to go by. It is a day where we expect that NASA principals will be leading their supporters in mass protests. These, they say, to eject some IEBC officials whom they're very uncomfortable with from office. What sort of day are we looking into? Already there are protests in Kisumu, we saw that earlier. Yes, and Nairobi is building up.
Yes, you know, Article 37 of the Constitution is very clear that anyone, any Kenyan has a right to protest, but there is the key word there. The
caveat.
There is a caveat, very good. There is a key, the caveat that in the protest, it must be peaceful and unarmed. So if at all there is those two, they are demonstrating peacefully and they are not armed, therefore they should proceed and do that. Yes, there is no problem. The only problem comes in where hooligans go into those protests, they go breaking people's vehicles, they go stealing from people's business, and that turns out to be chaotic.
I think the president said as much yesterday. He said that it's within NASA's rights, constitutional right, to mount any protest that they want, in as long as it keeps within the law. And he has mentioned Article 37, where we are talking about peaceful and armed demonstrations. That is fine. But as it were, the major problem that this country faces is that we've not reached that level where people can actually have a peaceful demonstration, because if it is peaceful, then it has no impact. Like I have been joking and saying, supposing NASA walks all the way to IBC at Anniversary Towers, we don't have any police officer there, and they sit there and they shout and they sing, and then at 5 go home. Will that make news? No. So I want to compare that with the scenario we saw at the Supreme Court on 1st of September, for example. What did we see? A situation where we have a multitude of policemen waiting out there, waiting for the judgment. And the judgment comes out and it's in favor of NASA, and all we see is celebration all around the country. And the policemen walk away peacefully and there was no violence. So it is possible you can have a mass movement, a demonstration, you can come together as a people, but you don't have to be violent. Now the problem,
Daktari, when you have a mass, when you say that,
let me cut you short at that. We'll come back and find out if indeed it is possible in Africa to have peaceful, the word is peaceful demonstrations, and if it is peaceful and unarmed, will it really achieve the agenda of the day? But in the meantime, NASA is having a press conference, and I take you to NASA headquarters in Nairobi. We'll be back with this conversation shortly.
We need to hear what the NASA is saying.
Don't fight for them. You'll be marginalized. He's the champion.
Come a bit in front. Can't be seen there.
Come here. You're okay now?
Ah, yeah. Okay. Are we ready? Are we ready? Order. Okay, let's have some order. Order. Could we have some order, please? Order, please.
Order, please. Order.
Order, please. Are we ready? You are ready, yeah? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, members of the press. Before you are members of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, from the NASA coalition. We are quite a number, so we will not go to individual. I'll not mention the names of individual members, but as you can see, it's a representative of the NASA coalition. Now, we have a press statement, and the heading of the press statement is Police is Planning Chaos. It has come to our knowledge that Honorable Moses Kuria of Gatundu South constituency chaired a meeting yesterday night with members of the outlawed Mungiki sect from Banana, Ndonyo and surrounding suburbs of Kikuyu constituency, ostensibly to discuss creating chaos during NASA's peaceful demonstration against the IEBC scheduled for today. We are reliably informed that this group has been armed with crude weapons, including pangas, and are currently being provided with free transport in matatus flying route number 102 into town with only one intention: to cause disturbance that will result into a confrontation between them and our team with the aim of triggering violence to suit their selfish interests. It has also reliably come to our knowledge that this meeting was held with the full knowledge of the Director of Criminal Investigations, Mr. Ndegwa Muhoro, and the Nairobi Area Police Commandant, Mr. Japheth Kome. They are fully aware of this, and their intention demonstrates complicity with this nefarious plan. We wish to make it known to the people of Kenya that we have tried to engage these two senior police officers with a view to securing their intervention to guarantee the peace and security of Nairobians and property, with no success. They have rejected all calls not only to provide adequate security, but even to investigate the matter. They are more concerned with the disruption of our planned peaceful demonstration against the IBC than the security of the Kenyan taxpayer, who is their employer. We wish to reiterate that the right to picket and to peaceful assembly is enshrined in our Constitution, the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya. And these rights are not granted by the state or any other individual, but are inalienable to every Kenyan. As citizens who respect the rule of law, we did what is required by law in giving notice of our intention to the police. The police acknowledged receipt of this notice, and we expect them to provide us with the necessary security during the demonstration. We will therefore exercise these rights without fear of intimidation and urge all Kenyans of goodwill to join us as we agitate for the removal of the corrupt and criminal Ezra Chiloba and his cronies from the IBC. We are equally dismayed by the decision by Jubilee to withdraw the security detail assigned to our presidential candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and his running mate, His Excellency Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. This is a dangerous precedent in bad taste, and we want to tell President Uhuru Kenyatta that should anything happen to any of our principles, we shall lay the blame squarely on his shoulders. Uhuru Kenyatta, as the current holder of the instruments of power, is solely responsible for the security of Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and other senior leadership of the NASA coalition. Therefore, it is our conclusion that this action, coupled with the state-sponsored organization of Mungiki, reveals part of a wider scheme to cause harm to our leaders and plunge this nation into chaos. Kenyans will not accept it. We therefore give the states 24 hours to return our leaders' security or face mass action right at their doorstep. This is not negotiable. That is irreducible minimum, I dare add. And it is signed by NASA Parliamentary Group. Let me just add maybe 2 words or so to this statement. I will not overemphasize the provisions in the Constitution regarding the right to assembly, the right to picket, and the right to demonstrate. That is a right that the people of Kenya gave each and every one of us. And in exercising our constitutional rights as NASA coalition, we called for peaceful demonstration to remove criminals, people who bungled the August 8th election, who are still occupying offices at the anniversary towers, the offices of IBC. And we need no permission from any authority to do that. But in line with the provisions of the law, we decided to notify the police of our intentions. However, as I have just said, it has come to our knowledge that the government, actually state machinery, is using people like Moses Kuria to organize the outlawed Mungiki. The same way Mungiki were organized in 2007 to cause mayhem in this country. And there are people who have worn plain clothes but are armed. And their aim is only one, to target some of our leadership. We want to tell Uhuru Kenyatta, who is exercising the authority of the president as a temporary incumbent president, that he has a duty. He has a duty to protect this country. That is the single most important responsibility as president. We are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to be scared into submission. We are ready, and I want to borrow words from Justice Maraga, that we are ready to pay any price for this. So if the government thinks they are going to intimidate us, let them be warned that we are not ready, we are not about to give in. And on the security of our leaders, Kenyans are ready. We are ready to provide security to Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. So even if they take their security, we will provide that security. But we want to just urge the president not to plunge this country into chaos. Kenyans are not ready to see the country burning. And I see Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy slowly and systematically driving this country to the point that we may not have Kenya tomorrow. We urge them to stop it, and stop it now. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I don't think there is any need for any question. I don't think there is no need for any question. We are demonstrating to IBC to remove Chiloba and his team from office. So any question around what IBC has said is overtaken by events. We are heading there. I don't think there is anything we are going to. Those are irrelevant. If we were thinking of those things you are asking, we would not be marching to IBC. Thank you very much.
A presser there from NASA, the ODM headquarters, and of course being read out by ODM Chair John Mbadi, who is expressing concerns that on this day that NASA had anticipated to have peaceful mass protests to express themselves against the being in office of some IEBC officials, among them Chairman Chebukati and CEO Ezra Chiloba, noting that a section of Jubilee leaders led by Moses Kuria, he has indeed deployed some tactics to render that particular mass protest by NASA as violent. Gentlemen, let me bring you in. Moses, or rather John Mbadi, is of the opinion that Moses Kuria had meetings with members of the illegal sect Mungiki, and that he was funding them or organizing for them to be part of the protests, and these to ensure they turn violent. Your reaction on the same?
Ideally, Kenya, where we are going, is bad, because everyone is now saying that you think you have supporters in Nairobi can do this, we also have ours, who can do even worse. So you bring yours, we shall also bring ours so that we retaliate and see what will happen. If at all what is being said by Honorable Mbadi is true, then I think we need to do something. It's just not a matter of politicking and saying that we shall go and hold mass protests and the other side is coming up again in arms. We are on a bad state.
Yeah, I think I echo his sentiments. Yesterday we saw in television the group calling itself Nairobi Business Community. And they actually expressed their readiness to defend their property. And so we're having two sides going up against each other. And you know, only 2 weeks ago or so, when we started the decision was to be read, a day to the decision, we had people burning tires along different places. Nakuru was affected, Limuru, we saw on Thika Road challenges coming up and people being asked, what tribe are you and all that kind. I do not really think I want this country to go down that road. If, for example, NASA has notified the police, as John Mbadi says, and has put in place mechanisms to ensure that these demonstrations will be peaceful, then it behoves of the security arm and the security agencies, I think, to avoid any confrontation. And so when we start hearing situations of Moses Kuria, has he also gone to the police and sought for permission that they will be demonstrating? If they have, they are within their right. But I think to come out and to arm people, we do not know as this being true yet, but if it is true, then I think something has to be done, and done very quickly.
And of course, John Mbadi further goes to say they have tried to engage police bosses around Nairobi County to provide security with no assistance or even response from them. This insinuating that the state could be using its machinery to frustrate NASA peaceful protests in this day.
But what are the police say called? What, Utumishi service? Utumishi kwa wote?
Utumishi kwa wote. But it being Utumishi kwa wote, I don't. You see, they have records of what when we have riots, maybe from or demonstration from this political party, it becomes violent or it does that. I would not want to say that. They have tried to engage them, and
he has said it.
Yes, he has said it, and the way he has said it, I will not want to say yes, it's true they have done it or not, because it's them who have the information. What the police are to do, they are to protect.
Yeah.
Yes, the property, and even
the demonstrators
and the demonstrators.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they have gone. They have gone there, or for them, according to what has been said, is that they have fear. Number one, that they will be retaliated from the other side. So that is the fear they have. There is no other day that NASA has asked that the police to help them in demonstrating.
I don't think NASA is asking the police to help them demonstrate. NASA is saying it is within their mandate to demonstrate peacefully, and that the police should be there to ensure that this happens.
Yes,
because within the context of demonstration, like we had discussed earlier, there could be a few goons who will join the group who are not necessarily NASA supporters with an intent of causing mayhem. And believe me, there's no Kenyan who wants any other single Kenyan to die again in the name of demonstrations. We saw it when we were evicting Isaac Hassan, and we saw what happened. I really do not think we want to go down that road. And then I think something important that John Mbadi has mentioned is that the police have withdrawn the security of the NASA Right Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, as well as his deputy Kalonzo Musyoka. Now again, that does not go well for us, because we're going into an election and we expect, especially the national agencies, including the police, the IBC, and any other national agency, as of now, they need to remain neutral in this matter.
And John Mbadi, the Honorable MP, notes that if anything happens to the Right Honorable Prime Minister in Kalonzo Musyoka, then Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, will be held personally liable. Wakili?
At times, you know, when I leave this place, people ask me, now, this the NASA fraternity, at one point they are saying that they do not accept Uhuru being there as a president. At the same time, you'll hear they're saying that Uhuru being there as a president, holding the instruments of power as of now, he should be able to protect those other principles or any other leader. I have no problem. In fact, it is right that Raila should be given security, and Kalonzo should be given security. I know, Kenya, we are very funny. By the close of the day, you will hear a statement from the Inspector General of Police saying that nothing happened like that. They were just doing a general checkup, changing people from one place to the other.
Yeah.
It will happen like that. But I just wonder, how? Is it double speech? You are saying that you do not recognize this person, at the same time you come and say that you are sitting there at the chairman, you should give us this and this. Number two, my colleague just said that I'm saying police should help. When I say help, is that police should provide that security to those who are going on the streets.
And that is not help, it is expectation, it's a requirement. There's a difference between the term helping, as if it is a gesture, a goodwill gesture, and another one doing your duty because that's what you should be doing.
Now, they've told you that they do not need any, you've heard Mr. Mbadi, Mr. Mbadi has spoken it, they do not need any authorization, any permission from anyone to hold those
They only notify,
yes,
that is what the law provides.
Just because, isn't it? So when they notify, you can go. Does this mean that you can go without? You can go without the police.
You can go without the police, but the police are required to ensure that there is no violence that takes place.
But John Mbadi notes they will exercise their rights, therefore without fear of any intimidation.
Yes, I agree with that. They should exercise that. That's a right that is in the Constitution, Article 7. It is a right that's given. Yes, it cannot be taken away by anyone.
Now, this takes us back to the conversation we had just before the break. Even with your right to assembly, picket, and demonstrate, how peaceful are mass protests, not only in this country, but in Africa? And if they're peaceful, then will they achieve their agenda at the end of the day?
As we speak now, there's a problem happening in Uganda. The Ugandan parliament is supposed to vote today on the age limit of presidential candidates. And the constitution as of now says 70, but I think the supporters of NRM and President Museveni would like to change that. Now, demonstrations in Uganda, even when Besigye just tried to say, I'll not take a vehicle to work, I will walk, that became a problem and he had to be put under house arrest. Then I think our own experience here in Kenya, we do not seem to understand the clear interpretation of the word demonstrate peacefully. Because I think whenever we talk about mass action or mass protest, it looks like it's only mass protest when there is violence. And that is where we must move away from. We've seen after the elections in the US, there were huge demonstrations against President Trump. Women walked long streets, yes, and held night vigils demonstrating because they didn't think they approved of his presidency. But did you hear anyone being killed? Did you hear a policeman lobbing some pili-pili into their eyes? No, they were allowed to do what they did peacefully. Of course, a few crooked fellows will come around and want to destroy window panes and all that. But I think the focus must be, can we hold free and fair, free, peaceful demonstrations? We should. But can it happen when we have instigation of the likes of Mungiki being infiltrating the whole process?
I think the mention of the word Mungiki now changes.
It just sends chills down the spine of Kenyans.
In fact, Mungiki changes the whole thing, and it brings it to a different level. And just go back, I will just go back to what Daktari said about Uganda. Please. I don't think you can even get us to a comparison of what is happening in Uganda. Just leave us alone. Kenyans, at least we are far away. You do not talk about Kenya then compare to Uganda. When you see the clips that are coming from Uganda, you would wonder in which world is this country in. Because how would you just get out of your house and then you are nabbed up like... No, the politics in Uganda is very far away down from that one.
They are around.
And Kenyans have their rights. Kenyans have their rights and they exercise them in any manner that they want. So when you better talk about another country. Ugandans, in fact in Uganda, you do not demonstrate. Uganda, you don't demonstrate, and the Ugandans themselves, they have allowed it because they even do not allow even the opposition
and his wife and the mother have been arrested just because of trying to speak up. So I think I completely agree. We're miles away in terms of our democracy and in terms of exercising our rights. And thanks to the Constitution, which has a very elaborate Bill of Rights in Chapter 4, explaining that as a people we are entitled to 1, 2, 3, 4. And for a very long time, I think our country has done well in enshrining and protecting these rights. And so demonstration is just one of those things that maybe we do not get it right.
Yes.
But if we can get it right.
If we get it right, just like what happened in was it in Misri?
Yes, in Egypt.
And
Yeah.
even before we go to a lot of that, John Mbadi notes that if security detail for the two NASA principals
is not reinstated in 24 hours,
then there will be mass protest right to their doorstep. Their doorstep.
Yes, I've told you earlier that within the day, you will hear message from the police saying that they do not withdraw. What was happening? Maybe they were changing. Yes, you will hear a different statement coming, and I'm sure that will happen.
But I think from our political perspective, it's within Jubilee's right as well to use those kind of antics so that they can weaken the opposition's resolve to undertake mass action, because actually you do not want to walk a presidential candidate down the streets when his security cannot be guaranteed.
Daktari, if that is something to rely on, then you are getting us to Uganda.
Finally, gentlemen,
you are getting us to Uganda, which is very bad.
Leave us. It's still very early. It's pretty much the beginning of the week. We have NASA protests. Now the Mungiki conversation is on. Security detail. Disparities going on, and of course Uhuru Kenyatta being put on the spotlight personally by NASA as we wind up.
Okay, we are in this state because of what happened on August 8th. Let's not forget that. We are here because of the situation at IEBC. And I think the solution to all this shenanigan lies squarely at the hands of IEBC being able to deliver free, fair, legal, verifiable, and all other regular elections on October 26th. If IEBC can guarantee that, I think there should be no problem. And then the next step the way forward is very quickly, is that we need dialogue. Let's not wait until when things are out of hand, then the international community starts calling for dialogue between Jubilee and NASA. Let's have that dialogue now. Let Raila and Uhuru meet, let them talk, and let us be able to calm the temperatures that are currently.
But Jubilee says if Raila is asking for that, he's asking for nusu mkate.
No, I don't think so. We just need to sort out the IEBC question, because Jubilee has its own demands and its own problems with the Supreme Court as well as IEBC. NASA has its own challenges with IEBC. The sooner the two principals, or let's use the term candidates, the sooner they start together, the better.
Yes, you see, for me, it's simple that the judgment of the Supreme Court did not indict Chiloba. Did not mention anyone of Chiloba that you've done this and this and therefore you're capable. Just going there for NASA going to saying that we want Chiloba out. Why are they pointing out on Chiloba? If there is anything, the DPP has written already for investigations to happen. And if at all investigations are happening and they find that Chiloba did this and this, therefore he should...
Thank you. And of course the conversation continues. We cannot end it on this particular day, but an interesting conversation. Of course, gentlemen here being of the opinion, even as they vary on other matters, being of the opinion that it is about time that President Uhuru Kenyatta and NASA principal Raila Odinga did get to a talking table, if only to calm the political tensions and emotions which rise by the day from their different supporters. We take a short break on NTV Today. My name is Lois Wangoi.
several issues are ongoing. In fact, we have information that in the afternoon there will be a meeting that will be talking to Sheila shortly about that. The clergy meeting, the IBC will be talking to Sheila to tell us more about what's happening there. But one of the most important stories we're following up for you today is the planned demonstration by NASA, which now has several developments. We'll be talking about that with my guest in studio now, George Msamali. He is a security analyst, and we want to talk about VVIP protection in the face of the protest. We now understand that the security detail for the NASA presidential candidates Raila Odinga, the Deputy Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula have been withdrawn. We have an explanation that says that the police are scaling down on VIP protection to avail more policemen to the service of the public. We'll be talking about that also later. We'll try and bring back the soundbite from John Mbadi, who is speaking on that this afternoon. But first, let me speak to George here. George, good to see you and thank you for coming. Let's talk about the VVIP protection and the timing of the withdrawal is now a fact. Listening to Mbadi is now a fact. They've been withdrawn. What crosses your mind when right now with the planned protest led by the same leaders and then you have the security detail withdrawn?
Ken, I think we are not talking about this for the first time. Remember, this has been happening before, even when then they were in the court coalition. They were agitating for reforms in the IEBC. They wanted the Hassan group out. We had the policemen guarding these VIPs being withdrawn. I think it has been a play of cat and mouse when it comes to matters of VIP protection in this country. And let us not only look at the VIPs. What is the role of the National Police Service in relation to the security of the citizenry? Because it's not only VIPs that are threatened. Even the common mwananchi down here can feel threatened. And the law is very clear, the National Police Act is very clear, that a member of the public who feels that his life is in danger or threatened by anybody can apply to the National Police Service Commission, give reasons why he feels he should be assigned close protection officers. And if a threat assessment is carried out, and actually the threat assessment brings out clearly that this person's life is in danger, then it's the responsibility of the National Police Service Commission to provide this security. But as we are seeing right now, here we are not talking about the common mwananchi. We are talking about presidential candidates. Remember, as it stands right now, Raila Odinga is still the presidential candidate for NASA. And the Constitution is very clear that any person who is a presidential candidate should be assigned special security by the National Police Service Commission. So withdrawing this security at this hour, when we are heading to a rerun of the election, is very dangerous for this country. And I shudder to imagine what would happen to this country in case, as Mbadi put it, something happens to the person of Raila Odinga.
Already that is taken, George, care of the Constitution. When a presidential candidate dies, if at all, that's the extreme, thinking of this extreme, the Constitution says the election shall be postponed for at least 60 days. That is 2 months. So it's very important. Let's put this in context, George, and come back to the discussion. Here is what John Mbadi said.
We are equally dismayed by the decision by Jubilee to withdraw the security detail assigned to our presidential candidate, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and his running mate, His Excellency Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. This is a dangerous precedent in bad taste, and we want to tell President Uhuru Kenyatta that should anything happen to any of our principles, we shall lay the blame squarely on his shoulders. Uhuru Kenyatta, as the current holder of the instruments of power, is solely responsible for the security of Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and other senior leadership of the NASA coalition. Therefore, it is our conclusion that this action, coupled with the state-sponsored organization of Mungiki, reveals part of a wider scheme to cause harm to our leaders and plunge this nation into chaos. Kenyans will not accept it. We therefore give the states 24 hours to return our leaders' security or face mass action right at their doorstep. This is not negotiable. That is irreducible minimum, I dare add.
All right, we'd like to speak about the IBC, and Sheila Sendeo is speaking to us in a moment, but just comment over that bite. The fact that they're saying this security of the VVIP, because these are very important people in the country, lies squarely in the hands of President Uhuru Kenyatta, and if anything happens to them, they will be taking this right to the doorstep of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Looking at them speaking like that, what crosses your mind as a security analyst?
Ken, I don't think this lies at the doorsteps of the presidency. Because 2010, we hired a new constitution and we made the National Police Service independent. And when we did this, we actually gave them a mandate. So I believe we should lay the blame squarely at the doorsteps of Vigilance House.
Okay.
Because it seems this is where these decisions are made and these actions are ordered from. So we cannot blame the presidency because the National Police Service Commission, National Police Service is supposed to be an independent body and it has its mandate. So we should not blame the president. Let's ask questions to the Inspector General of Police. Let him explain why they have reached that decision and why at this time.
All right. One of the explanations that is being shared around is that the police say that they are scaling down on the VVIP or VIP protection and availing more policemen to the public.
Have they done the threat and risk assessment? And why are they targeting these two particular gentlemen, the NASA leaders? And close protection is not just any other police work. People need proper training. People need to be oriented on the person they're going on, the subject. They need to do so much about this person. And we are not only talking about the persons of the budget, of the subjects. Okay. We are also looking at residential security. So where are they scaling down? Okay. Are they scaling down on close protection, or are they even doing that at the residentials? So this is something that they need to explain, and why at this hour. Okay. And look at it. We are withdrawing this security when NASA had declared that they want to hold peaceful demonstrations against the IEBC. And this is a constitutional right. Article 37 of the Constitution allows people to picket. It allows people to hold free demonstrations and unarmed demonstrations. Okay. So I'm trying to look at, I'm seeing some kind of politics being played out here. I'm looking at a situation whereby some people want to be intimidated. And I'm not talking about even now. We have a history. Starting from 1992 when we went into multi-party politics. This is what the governments have been doing, and we thought we are seeing an end of this with the inauguration of the new constitution, which gave police independence. But it seems we are going back to where we were in those years, where we have a police service that is being controlled by the executive. I think these are hard questions that we need to ask ourselves as Kenyans, and we need to get solutions to this. We should not play politics with matters of national security.
I'd like to speak more about that, especially in the context of demonstration. And do you as someone who is assured of close protection, lose your security because you're taking a civil action, which is a constitutional right? I'd like to speak about that. And I'd also like to speak about the scaling down of security. You spoke about that as we wait for Sheila to get up so that we speak to her about the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, who are also speaking to the IBC this afternoon. But talk to me about how many people, for example, is a person of the caliber of a presidential candidate and the caliber of a former senior government official afforded, both personal and in the homes?
Ken, we should look at the security that is being provided to Raila Odinga and Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka as people who are VVIPs. And remember, constitutionally, this security was supposed to be provided even if they were not principals or they were not presidential candidate in these elections. Remember, Raila Odinga was the former prime minister and Kalonzo Musyoka was the former vice president. Yeah. So they constitutionally have a right to this security. But before we even talk about the numbers, the process has always been, first you do a threat assessment on the person. All right. You don't just assign bodyguards to everybody. Okay. It's laughable that in Kenya...
even number.
Yeah, even the numbers. It's laughable that in Kenya, any person with money can get a bodyguard from the National Police Service.
Can be armed.
Can be armed. Yes. I think this is a big joke. Okay. So when you do the threat and risk assessment on this person, you determine the number of people that are supposed to be deployed depending on the level of threat.
All right. I'd like to speak to you about that much more. And just interestingly, as you speak to me about the threat assessment, yesterday I was walking downstairs and incidentally I met my senator and he doesn't have an assistant, he doesn't have a bodyguard, he's just walking on the street alone. I'd like to talk about that threat assessment in regarding all these people and try to grade them. But first, let's speak to Sheila Sendeo. And Sheila Sendeo is reporting from Karen, where the Catholic bishops are supposed to be meeting the IEBC this afternoon. And later on, they'll be having a press conference. Probably in an hour, we'll also be taking that press conference live. But first, good afternoon, Sheila. Tell us where you are and what's happening.
Well, Ken, I'm at Donum Day. Hope I said that right. It's a spiritual center where the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops are currently meeting the IEBC commissioners. We've seen the chairman, Wafula Chebukati. We've also seen some of the commissioners, Rosaline Akombe and the vice chair, Connie Nkatha. They're actually in that room behind me, and they're actually holding discussions before they come out, as you said, and address a media conference. And all this in light of the current happenings in the country, the political temperatures. Remember, the church has been very vocal, adding their voices to whatever's been going on in the country, to the political discourse, trying to bring all the players together to ensure that there is a clear way forward, even as we hurtle towards the repeat election that is on the 26th of October. Remember, the same conference of Catholic bishops had earlier, before the last election, urged the IEBC to embrace dialogue, bring the two parties together to a discussion table to ensure that they're both, or all of them, are on the same page. And this is pretty much more of the same, to try and ensure that they reach out to both sides of the political divide, both Jubilee and NASA, who are parties to this repeat election, and ensure that they sit together and they discuss some of the contentious issues ahead of the repeat election. Remember, NASA has given their list of demands that they say they must be met before they take part in the repeat election. There's some what they call the irreducible minimums. The IEBC has responded to some of these concerns, even though they considered on some parts and pushed back on others. For instance, they said that they're going to be taking disciplinary action and taking action against some of the returning officers across the country. Others will be reshuffled, but they didn't say clearly what will happen to the top IEBC officials who NASA maintains they must leave office if they are to take part in the repeat election. Of course, there are also the issues of printing of ballot papers, the results transmission system. They haven't really found a middle ground on these issues. There's meant to be a meeting between the IEBC and political parties, probably tomorrow at the National Tallying Center of the Bomas of Kenya. But before then, the church is trying to ensure that they sit on the table with an open mind, really, and to try and ensure that they bring both sides of the political aisle to the discussion table to ensure that they speak with one voice, as it is, Ken.
Meeting the IEBC officials, and we already know the agenda, but just speak to me, Sheila, about the fact that all right, I'm told that Sheila cannot hear us, so we'll be trying to get back to Sheila with the press conference a little bit later on, but she'll also be speaking to us at the top of the hour. And of course, George Msamali is still with us in studio. We are discussing VIP protection in the face of what's happening in the country currently, and we know there's a planned protest. We heard from NASA that they're saying they're going on with the protest, regardless of what they feel the other side is doing, who are also allegedly organizing their own protest to counter this, but they're saying they're going on with the protest. Now, talk to me about threat assessment. One, the police, as they provide protection to or security to the protesters today, what kind of assessment will they be doing in terms of the people who will be attending and where they're likely to go with their protest?
Ken, when the police are doing risk assessment, it assists them in coming up with operational plans. It will assist on deployment of police officers on the streets to make sure that the protesters have a peaceful demonstration. And areas they will look at are exactly where does the threat come from. Already Mbadi has talked about Mungiki. That is a major threat because we've seen the workings of Mungiki in this country before. And it will determine the number of police that will be deployed. If the National Police Service see it befitting to deploy police officers to make sure that these demonstrations are peaceful, then it will determine the number of people that will be deployed on the ground, the kind of equipment that will be deployed. For example, we have water cannons. I've seen water cannons already on the streets of Nairobi. I've seen a very big number of policemen patrolling the streets of Nairobi. And I think this comes from the risk assessment that has been done by the police. So I believe that as much as we are being told by NASA that nothing has been done, but the fact that we are visibly seeing police on the street clearly indicates that the police have done something to make sure that these demonstrations are peaceful. And if that is why there's that deployment in the first place.
Is it risk assessment in terms of the kind of property that may be destroyed, or is risk assessment in terms of people who may be harmed during the protest?
It includes I mean, it's a wholesome thing.
Okay.
We look at the property. We must make sure that the property is safe. We also look at the people that will be demonstrating, make sure that their security is also ensured. I think risk assessment is all round.
Okay.
We don't just look in one direction. Therefore, I believe that what I have seen on the ground, I've seen enough deployment of police, is to ensure that we have both a peaceful demonstration for the people and that property is also protected, because that is the mandate.
I like to pick your brains on the kind of presence that you're talking about. We have fully geared up anti-riot policemen with tear gas. You have spoken about water cannons on the street. You've spoken about the barricades from the police. You've spoken about an increased police presence on the ground generally. When you look at such, what comes into your mind? A peaceful protest or a protest that is likely to be violent? The reason we are having, because if it's peaceful, I have seen protests in this town. For example, by last week I saw one at the AG's office where we had a hawkers, and they only had a few policemen within them, restraining them. But we did not have anti-riot policemen, we did not have the water cannons, we did not have barricades. If you see that on the ground, what comes to your mind?
I think I'll still get back to threat assessment. Because when you're talking about hawkers, these are a small number of people. They have notified the police that they're going to have a demonstration within the streets of Nairobi. An assessment has been done, and we see no threat. Probably to that magnitude that we've seen today. And remember, here we are not talking about a few people. NASA commands a very big following within the city of Nairobi. And we are going to have more than 1 million people on the street, more than 500,000 people on the streets. Then we need to have enough numbers of the police also. So the amount of police deployed should be equal to the threat that has been identified. And I don't think this is a simple matter, and we should give it to the police that I think this time round they are doing enough to make sure that we do not have a breakout of violence. Remember, we've heard about that threat by Mbadi saying that the Mungikis will be deployed by the other group, and probably it's out of this intel that formed the decision to have this large number of policemen on the streets of Nairobi. Because if we have two groups that are antagonistic meeting on the streets of Nairobi, and then we do not have enough police, then what would happen?
A recipe for a potential clash. So that's something that they might be looking to avert. I'd like also to talk to you about what you mentioned right at the top of this talk. The fact that this falls squarely at the doorstep of the National Police Service. What criteria does the National Police Service use when they want to withdraw a security? What must have happened for them to withdraw a security person from either personal security or a home guard or something?
These are operational matters, Ken, and there's due process that is normally done. And if somebody has been assigned security, they need to do a reassessment, because before you are assigned security, we do an assessment. So if we felt like 10 is enough for you now, what makes us believe that 2 will do for you? So we must do a reassessment of that. Another risk assessment on you, and say that now, because of the situation as it is, we feel that you deserve more even more, or a reduced number of police. But what I'm seeing with the current scenario, this is a knee-jerk reaction. Because when did they do that reassessment? Yet, we are ahead, the political temperatures are rising. We are going into an election, a re-election. And the same people that were accorded security before 8th of August are the same people we're withdrawing security from. And then we've not been told this reorganization. Why are they reorganized now when we're having these protests that have been that have been called by?
So in your mind, George, is right now these people need even more security?
In my mind now, these people need more security, and not only the leaders, because it's a constitutional right for people to picket, it's a constitutional right for people to do demonstrations. So long as these demonstrations are peaceful and unarmed, then we should have policemen there making sure that this happens, as it's a constitutional right. So right now, they need more security, not withdrawal of their security personnel and exposing them to danger. And remember, I've heard what Mbadi has said. We don't need security. So what is the alternative to government security? That is...
personal security, probably? Your own security?
Where from? We have a country where people go for militias to protect them. People will go for Mungiki. People will go for Sungu-Sungu. If you withdraw, if you withdraw legal security, then it means somebody will go to illegal security. I am in the private security industry, and I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that we have very few qualified VIP protectors out here that can be hired to go and protect these leaders.
Okay.
I was looking at the NASA campaigns during the run-up to the last elections, and the people I saw there are not professional security people. They were using goons, the normal goons, the men in black.
Men in black, yes.
These are not people that are trained properly to deal with close protection.
Okay.
So the alternative will not be sweet for Kenyans.
All right.
So let us remain professional, let the police remain professional, let them provide security as required by the law to this presidential candidate and his deputy.
All right. I'd like to ask one more question before I let you go, George. During the last protest, this same thing happened, and it's now probably striking many Kenyans that perhaps it's being done because they're going to a protest. Do you lose your rights as a person who's entitled to close protection when you're going for a civil action such as this? Does Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi, all those VIPs, do they lose their rights to have personal close security when they're going to a protest? Because these same security personnel, remember, are policemen, most of them. Do they lose it?
I remember even the withdrawal of security to Honorable Joho when he was found in a protest. They don't lose that right, because even the common mwananchi that does not have close protection officers is supposed to be protected by the police during this time of picketing and peaceful demonstrations. So I think security is supposed to be enhanced. Proper assessments are supposed to be done, and more police deployed, because now we are not only looking at the principals, we're also looking at their followers who will be out there on the street doing what is constitutionally right for them to do. And I don't think that you lose your right. Somebody will tell me that probably they don't want police to be involved in protests, but they're not there to protest themselves. The police are there to provide security.
Or someone might tell you that the police are not supposed to clash with other policemen.
How will they clash? Because the loyalty of a policeman lies in the Police Act. It tells you exactly what are the roles and responsibility of a policeman. But I'll bring this out. The most unfortunate bit about this, it is that when we do this deployment to protect VIPs, people choose people from their own tribes, people choose people from their own political affiliations. They don't pick people because they merit, because they qualify, and they're suitable for that job.
Oh, so you nominate your security once you are a VIP?
That is the problem, the most unfortunate bit. And then remember, these security people are not under the control or the command of any particular officer who can be held responsible when things go haywire. And this is where we fail as a country. We need to put these police officers under the same command, and when they go out there, we should give them a clear job description, what they're supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do.
So in your mind also, George, is if you are Raila Odinga, you can have security from the other community because they are under a central command.
We are Kenyans, and you are supposed to work everywhere. I was in the General Service Unit, and we used to be deployed to guard. For example, I worked in the Presidential Guards. The president was not from my tribe. So you're supposed to have people deployed to you on merit and qualified and trained. This is not happening in Kenya right now, and that is the most unfortunate bit, because people now work not as per the National Police Service Act, but depending on the whims of the subjects that they're guarding. And I think this is why the police now decided, let us withdraw these people from these principles, because probably they might turn against the other policemen. I think we should also try and audit that.
All right. As I let you go, George, tell me what is likely to happen in this scenario. Could the principal feel their life is even more exposed and they might be in grave danger and stay away from the protest? Or do you think there can be enough public pressure to reinstate the security, noting what Mbadi has said, 24 hours, or we bring it to your doorstep?
I think this is a decision that has quickly to be made by the National Police Service, because now with this in the public domain, it's clearly telling Kenyans that these two presidential candidates have been exposed to danger, are now being exposed to danger. And what will happen is that there will be public pressure to restore the security to these two principals. And remember, I've heard it from elsewhere that the Deputy Inspector General of the Kenya Police, Kitili Mboya, claims that he's not aware yes. that this security has been withdrawn. Yet that is his responsibility.
But how is that even possible?
Are we looking at a situation whereby the right hand does not know what the left hand is doing? Where are these commands coming from? Are we looking at a situation whereby we have internal rivalry within the police service that is affecting command, that is affecting performance, whereby a certain officer does not know where instructions are coming from, whereas these instructions are expected.
Ordinarily, where should this instruction come from?
These instructions should come from the office of the Deputy Inspector General in charge of the Kenyan Police, because all police assigned for special duties must be assigned from that desk.
Okay. So for Kitili to say he's not aware, it's either dishonest or is honestly not aware.
It's either dishonest or he's honestly not aware.
Okay.
And I think this is very serious, showing that there might be some fractions within the National Police Service as you're heading to this rerun of the elections.
Okay.
It does not augur well for the security of this country.
All right. I'm letting you go in a minute, but finally, paint the picture for us on how, having protected a VVIP, paint the picture for us how right now they look, these VVIPs, without the security.
I think our VVIPs are vulnerable because we have a history whereby people have been killed when they are supposed to be under protection. Let me bring to mind the case of Robert Ouko. You saw when the investigations were being done, somebody talked about his security having been withdrawn, having not been there. Look at he was called, he was an MP in Ndilinge, Tony Ndilinge.
Tony Ndilinge, yes.
Tony Ndilinge was killed when he was supposed to be under protection, and so many other scenarios come into picture. But what we are saying that we are looking at a situation whereby we are making it not professional for VIPs to have security assigned to them.
Okay.
We are looking at a situation whereby we are making it a political decision. This is very wrong. Yet, it's clearly in the police mandate that VIPs are supposed to be accorded protection.
Okay.
And who is supposed to do this? The police, upon carrying out a threat and risk assessment on the subject and determining the number of personnel to be deployed as close protection officers.
Okay.
And when we look at the residentials, the type of officers that are deployed there are different from the close protection officers because their kind of training is fixed site security. And when somebody has been trained on fixed site security, we say, at what level do we deploy? For example, the presidential guards, these are officers that are properly trained on fixed site security. When it comes to the presidency, we have the presidential escort team. These have been trained on close protection. So we should differentiate these two.
Okay.
And when we want to assign the officers, then we should do the assessment and say he needs 20 close protection officers, and at the residence, we need like 15 fixed site security officers. So this is how it's supposed to be done. And when we want to withdraw, we must do a reassessment.
Okay.
Not just waking up in the morning and saying, we are reorganizing ourselves and therefore we are withdrawing this number of officers or we are adding this number of officers. That is not the right thing to do. It shows clearly that there is an operational failure within the National Police Service.
All right. Pictures on your screen right now, finally from Anniversary Towers. We have demonstrators getting into town, that is University Way at Anniversary Towers, where they have begun their demonstration. NASA announcing in the last hour or so that indeed they will be demonstrating regardless of what has happened to the VVIPs. And that's what we're talking about this afternoon here with George Msamali. And of course, the protest is not only in Nairobi. We saw pictures earlier in Kisumu. So these are live pictures from the Anniversary Towers. And of course, we know that this is not the first time that such a crowd is forming at the Anniversary Towers. We remember the time that the other commissioners led by Isaac Hassan were supposed to be removed. There was this kind of protest, and there are few Kenyans lost their lives, and it was one of the hardest time for the protesters, having to maintain there for weeks on end, regardless of what had happened. But there was quite some demonstration, and of course, this demonstration is to press the IEBC to exit the scene and allow for other commissioners and secretariat officials to come in and undertake the exercise, that is the repeat presidential election. Live pictures, they'll be on our split screen even as we conclude our discussion here with George. George, looking at the pictures already, you know, on the ground, there are already people, and we've seen them. Right now, it's peaceful, but closely, this might change in the coming hours. Right now, the police and the public are mingling freely, but this is most likely to change, looking at how these protests have ended.
It has happened. It's rarely have we had a peaceful demonstration, and I think the problem normally comes from the police. I'm talking about this because when I was a greenhorn in the service, I happened to be one of those officers that were deployed to quell the Sabasaba riots, as they were called then.
Mm-hmm.
And from the onset, the demonstrations were peaceful. But something happened that changed the whole thing, and the protests became violent. And we have always witnessed, we have all witnessed this before. Even the last time when we were having the peaceful demonstration wanting the former IBC commissioners out, the protests started peacefully, and then at some point they turned violent. And in most cases, you'll find that it takes the action of one policeman to change the setup of the whole thing. And in most cases, you'll find that policemen become sort of trigger happy. You'll find that somebody will decide without orders, to throw a tear gas canister at the demonstrators. And then this changes these demonstrators from being this peaceful, and now they become violent. And as it is, you'll see them now. They are moving very peacefully. We are seeing police around them. But we hope it will end like this.
Even public service vehicles are just
passing, they are moving
passing,
around.
yes.
And I think I look at this and say this is a peaceful demonstration, and what is supposed to happen is that let the police now provide security until the end of these protests.
Someone gave an analogy of what happened at the Supreme Court before the bees saga. There was a protest at the Supreme Court which lasted for hours.
Yes.
There were very few policemen. There was people demonstrating, singing, making noise, doing whatever they wanted to do. But the protest was largely peaceful, and someone said it's because the police decided to let them be.
That is it, because the instructions are normally, when you go out there and these demonstrators are peaceful, please don't interfere with them. It's in the Police Riot Act.
Okay.
And it clearly tells you when to use force to disperse a crowd. When do we consider a peaceful demonstration to have turned rioters? Yeah? It is there, and you're told if any person in that group tries to use violence on another person or tries to destroy property, then the demonstration is considered to have turned violent and rioters. And the steps are people should be cautioned. A riot declaration should be made by an officer not below the rank of an inspector, requesting the people to disperse peacefully. And if they disperse peacefully, then no force will be used against them. But we've not seen that happening professionally in this country. And as you said, I watched those demonstrations at the Supreme Court. People were there, they were picketing, they were shouting, running all over the streets, but nothing happened because the police restrained themselves. And we did not see any member of that group trying to behave in a manner to suggest that the demonstrations are going to turn riotous. And if this situation maintains or continues to be like this, then we hope that this will end well.
Okay.
But at some point, if somebody turns riotous, and remember the police in Kenya always use such opportunities to use excessive force on the protesters. And this is unfortunate because, as I have said, we have a partisan police service. People that take instructions depending on the political divide they subscribe to. And this is one thing that we should make sure does not happen. Let us have a police service that is loyal to the Kenyan people, that is loyal to the Constitution of Kenya.
Okay.
And I think we will avoid a lot of trouble.
And that, George, was not the only protest. I want to take you back to the 1st of September, when the Supreme Court also made the decision. I worked at the Supreme Court, and there's very tight security, obviously, to protect the judges and the litigants and, of course, the lawyers. And straight after that ruling, the policemen completely left the demonstrators to do their thing, George. And you could see them intermingling. At one point, they even took off the buffers and let the people just be, and it ended peacefully.
But Ken, there were no stones thrown there.
And this was the predominant team or group that is usually said to cause trouble in this town. And that is the Nazi supporters.
Yeah,
and they were right there, and there was no stone thrown.
At that point, the police acted professionally. I think that is why we had very peaceful demonstrations. Remember when we had doctors at Uhuru Park? And then the police went there to disperse them. And we saw the Central OCPD telling them, please disperse peacefully. And the doctors heeded those instructions and they dispersed peacefully and nobody was beaten up by the police. So I think what happened at the Supreme Court, it all depends on the kind of crowd that you're dealing with. As I've said, you might have a very peaceful demonstration turning violent because one mad person within the demonstrators decided now to turn the whole thing into a rioters mob. And this happens when, for example, you decide to destroy property. This happens when, for example, we have been told that there are two groups here in the opposing sides, and you decide now to use violence on members of the other group. Then it makes this actually makes it necessary for the police now to use force to disperse both groups.
All right.
But when we have peaceful demonstrators, when nobody is destroying another person's property, then I think what the police are supposed to do is to provide security. You do your demonstrations, you dance your songs, and then go
live peacefully. And I'd like my producer perhaps to find a soundbite yesterday by President Uhuru Kenyatta when he said that, when he said, let them demonstrate, but you destroy our property, we'll come for you. You go against the law, we'll come for you. Probably if they find it, we'll play it. And one of the other things that is usually talked about during the riots, because George, I'll tell you, this is the same crowd that we saw at the Supreme Court on the 1st of September. They're the same NASA supporters. They're the same crowd. So in your mind also, this might just end up the same way it ended on the 1st of September if the police restrain themselves and let them demonstrate.
Not the police restraining themselves alone.
Even the protesters?
The protesters need to restrain themselves. They need to work within the confines of the law.
That is breaking the law. If you look at how they are on that motor vehicle, precisely, that's against the law. And secondly, when they come in their huge numbers, George, they're also barricading. Like, that is now University Way. You expect very little activities, and motorists will move away from University Way, try to use the Uhuru Highway, or even go up Mbagathi Way and come somewhere.
We should agree that when we have...
And I'm told the first tear gas has been thrown, you can say.
That is it.
Yeah.
And I said, this is provocation now.
Yes.
And what has made the police decide now to fire tear gas against the demonstrators? We should find out. Have they turned violent, or it's just an act of impunity by the police?
We had these pictures throughout the screen. We haven't seen probably something that we don't know. We are not on the ground, but we'll be speaking to Enoch Sikolia because as the proceedings, as you saw it earlier, there were basically people who were
peaceful, they were singing, they were dancing. And as I gave you an example that I told you, during Saba Saba, it is the police that provoked the riots. I was there personally and I saw what happened. Somebody just decided these people were singing and shouting at Kamkunji, and one amongst us decided to throw a tear gas canister at the crowd.
Yes.
And this is exactly what triggered what is now infamously known as Saba Saba riots. And as I had earlier pointed out, the police need to restrain themselves. The demonstrators also need to restrain themselves. Unfortunately, we are not seeing this happening. Already tear gas has been thrown out. Tomorrow, you'll start hearing of situations whereby live bullets were used against the demonstrators. I think it gives a very negative picture of our country to the international community. In that we cannot hold peaceful demonstrations, yet this is enshrined in our constitution under Article 37.
All right. You spoke about something earlier that interested me. That is the manner in which a protest deemed to be peaceful or about to turn violent is supposed to be dispersed.
Yes.
So in your mind as a security analyst, how would the police have broken this crowd? Because the first thing we saw was to throw the tear gas. We have live pictures there. We should have seen the leaders of that contingent, probably
the commander
talking to this crowd,
telling them that we are declaring this demonstration illegal, and each one of you is being requested, not ordered, is being requested to peacefully
vacate
disperse.
this.
The word is disperse. And if you don't do so, then we will use necessary force to make sure that you disperse.
So this
that is a legal requirement, Ken. It's a legal requirement. It's in the laws of Kenya. So if somebody decides to do this without following due process, then this person is supposed to be held responsible.
Okay. Look at that picture. On the far end towards the Globe Cinema roundabout, you see the protesters. This is the recipe for anarchy you were speaking about. What is likely to happen here, Georgie, now? Is this the beginning of running battles within the CBD?
This is the beginning of running battles within the CBD. And remember, we had been told by the opposition team that the government side or the Jubilee Party wanted to use certain elements of an illegal group to make this peaceful demonstration look violent, so as we have police coming in and dispersing the people. So are we looking at a situation whereby this has actually happened? Are we saying that yes, elements of Mungiki now have been unleashed on the members of the public, on the demonstrators, and this has initiated the police using tear gas to disperse them?
But to be fair on them, probably, if they have intelligence that the other group was coming to disrupt their peaceful protest, would it be fair to tell the policemen to disperse this crowd before they clash? Because it's also a recipe for chaos in town.
I mean, they should have formed a cordon around that area, making sure that only bona fide demonstrators from the group that had notified the police that we are holding peaceful demonstrations have access to that area within the cordon. And any other person who looks like is not part of this team should have been dispersed earlier, and if possible, been arrested and taken to police custody and arraigned in court for engaging himself in an unpeaceful demonstration. But I'm not seeing this happening. This area is supposed to have been cordoned off so that we have these people, the procession walking in very peacefully to Anniversary Towers. They say they were going there to picket, and then they leave peacefully and go home.
What if their agenda, George, is not peaceful? Because they say, Raila Odinga said, let's go evict them from the office.
They changed that tune and they said, we are not going to evict them. We are going to tell them that we are not happy with them being at Anniversary Towers and we want them to resign. I think I saw that statement.
The value from of NASA. The Constitution entrenching this was the importance of the kind of things that come out of a protest, right?
Yes, sure.
So when you look at the message they were taking to the IBC, in your mind again, they should have been let to demonstrate?
They should have been let to go. If they had anything they wanted to deliver, any notice they wanted to deliver to the IBC, they should have been allowed to do that because this is a constitutional right. And then the police, at some point, if they felt that there was a threat to security, would have requested them, as I have said, or ordered them, depending, to leave peacefully or be forcefully dispersed, depending on the situation. But now, that has always been, forceful dispersion has always been the last resort. You disperse people forcefully as the last resort, according to the Police Riot Act. The first option is always requesting these people to leave peacefully. But you see, the police have resorted to the last option. Are they doing? Are we looking at a situation whereby probably they have done a threat assessment and realized, no, these things are likely to get out of hand. So we need to move these people out of the CBD very quickly. And the only way to do this is by use of force.
If you look at the picture, George, that is on our screen, and our cameraman managed to pull the picture as far as the flyover, University Way, that links University Way to the other side, they are the same protesters. The only place they have been pushed away from is the Anniversary Towers. Yes, so they have been let on the other side because you can still see them atop that car. So this was basically to push them away from Anniversary, but they can still go on with their protest if you look at the picture.
Yeah, I saw a lot of deployment of police at Anniversary Towers. So probably it was an operational decision to make sure that these people do not get to Anniversary Towers. And there is a possibility or a likelihood that probably the demonstrators wanted to use force to access Anniversary Towers, and this has formed the decision by the police now to disperse them forcefully. Let's look at it from that point because we are not on the ground.
Yes.
I think Anniversary Towers had been cordoned off. It had been sealed off. A lot of presence of police there, and I've not seen the operational commands or the operational orders, and probably they had been told that let people not access Anniversary Towers. Keep the protesters or the demonstrators away from Anniversary Towers. And as we've said, these protesters are there for a reason. They are there for a mission. And the mission is to get to Anniversary Towers. So there might be a likelihood that they try to use force to access Anniversary Towers, and then the police now decided to use force to make sure that does not happen.
I want to also to ask you one of the questions that is very hard to answer. In where VVIPs in the caliber and stature of the NASA principals, former vice president, the presidential candidate are protesting. Is there any law that now ensures that they are not protected such that the police can lobby tear gas canisters right in the middle of the VVIPs?
Ken, my experience, when you're a close protection officer, you've been trained in that job. When you are out with the subject, you do what we call SALT testing. You assess the ground, make your own assessment, and say, no, this is dangerous for my principal to go there. Your responsibility is to make sure that he does not go there.
Okay.
Make sure that, yes, the environment is conducive for him to go and picket. It will be peaceful. You've done your own personal assessment. That is from your training. Yeah? And if you are unprofessional, you will allow the VVIP to go to such scenes.
So you should take it upon yourself to stop them from going.
You should take it upon
What
yourself.
if you're not there? You have been withdrawn by the state.
You've been withdrawn by the state. It means probably the state wanted you, the VIP, to go there for their own reasons. But I believe even the principals themselves have their own private security arrangements, and they must have drawn these people from an equally well-trained pool. People with experience, people will go do that assessment and tell them, it's not safe for you to go there.
Okay.
Stop them from doing it. And I'm not only talking about these principals, even the people who protect the president have received this training, and they have a right to stop the president from going where they feel his life will be threatened, his life will be at risk. I mean, this is exactly what professionals are supposed to do. Professional close protection officers are supposed to do. But in a situation whereby you ask for a protection officer and you're given a quack, then don't expect much from these people. They will always play at the whims of the subjects. You need to balance between what is right for the subject and their personal engagement.
Okay.
You need to take control of this.
Okay.
So I believe that if these people are professional, they will stop the VVIPs from even going for these protests. And as it is, after the withdrawal of government security, if I was one in charge of their security, I would have told them, let other people go, but we should not have you there. It's going to be risky for
Of course, that's bad for politics. And someone is carrying, how do we call it? The empty shell.
Yes.
Someone is carrying an empty shell there on our screen. So we just saw the shell briefly. So that means that even the police are already using live bullets.
Live bullets.
Yes. Unless someone transported this shell to the scene.
It can't have been transported there. Remember, these live bullets, sometimes these tear gas canisters, the ones that they use, gas guns, are supposed to be projected by a live bullet.
Oh, okay.
So it hits by a live bullet. So probably that is how it was used.
Oh, that's how it was used there, not necessarily used on the crowd.
On the crowd.
Okay, okay, that's a valid explanation. So I know you really need to go, but there's still a lot of development. So we are not likely to see the VVIPs going for this protest. We're not likely to see that. But this is also political for them. I know you're security, but this is also political for them. If they miss the protest, then it doesn't make sense for the supporters.
So far, we've not seen them
on
the screens. But probably they might be somewhere planning, congregating on how they'll access anniversary towers. So I'm not seeing this ending soon. Because it's around 1300 hours now. We still have 4 or 5 more hours of daylight before the day ends. So there is a likelihood that these people will appear. I remember Sabasaba, we started dispersing people as early as 8 in the morning. But
you worked the whole day.
We worked the whole day. And the group that we were expecting to have happened first at the scene came at midday.
Enjoyer and the group.
Enjoyer and the group, Matiba, Raila, came at midday. Yet the dispersing had started as early as 8 in the morning. So this can be this can be a plan.
And if you look at what's happening currently, you can see members of the public headed. That's a police.
That's a police car.
Police car. In fact, even the one right behind there. So we'll try and get our cameraman, if he can get close to the car, to see what exactly is happening. But as you rightly said, this dispersing that crowd was the beginning of the running battles.
Definitely.
I'd like you now to take your time to talk to people who are spectators in this. They're not involved, but they're closely
I think
by the scene.
The solution is they let them leave, because it's very difficult for the police to identify who are the protesters and who are not the protesters. And they will be exposing themselves to danger. And this is not only from the police. The police might be doing their work very legally, they might be doing their work very professionally, but we have protesters, and in most cases we've experienced a situation whereby in among the protesters we have people that are actually there just to loot. They are not there for peaceful demonstrations, they are not there for picketing. People take advantage of the situation and they may decide to loot, they might decide to rob people, they might decide to maim people. So if you are within the vicinity of anniversary towers, you are not in a secure environment.
Let me cut you short. We try and listen into what the protesters are saying. All right, there's a conflict of information coming in because earlier we understand that the scene where you saw the senior officers who are in one of the cars there, he told the protesters actually they could walk all the way to Anniversary Towers, but they were not allowed to throw stones or do anything that would potentially break that. But we have seen tear gas canisters fired in the last few seconds, and of course they are now running battles between the police and the protesters, and as expected, each time that happens, someone takes the beating, and it's not his day today. Probably he's the one who's instigated violence, I don't know, but he's been arrested because we understand that the senior officers actually allowed the protesters to move all the way to Anniversary Towers just on a condition that they were not going to cause any kind of fracas. But one of the protesters there has been arrested. We don't know the reason. We'll try and make sense of it from our reporters, but let's try and listen in.
This is very bad.
Ondokea gari binamu.
Gari iende. Ondokeni mtanyanyangwa. Na tunataka askari kama nyinyi Kenya. Huh?
And George, that is what you're talking about earlier, that student caught in the crossfire, you know?
Yes.
That is what you're saying. If you have no business going along University Way or Uhuru Highway headed out of town towards Westlands, you don't have a reason to go there because that's likely to happen.
That's likely to happen, and that's why I've said if you have no business being around that area, you better leave. And if you have business to be around there, make sure that you're in a safe place, because it's very difficult for police to differentiate between a protester and
an innocent bystander or just someone who's walking past.
And it's also difficult, and as I've said, sometimes these protests are hijacked by criminals and they take advantage of the situation. They might be out there to rob you, they might be out there to steal from you, and at the end of the day they might mine you. So if you have no business being around anniversary towers, you better leave, go to a secure and safe place. That's what any innocent person should be doing right now.
Okay. And of course, the protest continues. There's that conflicting information that we have, George, that the senior officers say you can protest, you can go as far as anniversary towers, but don't throw stones or be civil about your protest. And then there's that now that where we're seeing them firing tear gas canisters.
Unfortunate to say this, but we have a break of command in the police. This is something that was witnessed even in Kisumu. Because I happened to talk to senior police officers there, they could not explain what happened because we have two arms of the police. We have the administration police and we have the Kenya police. And then in the mix, we've brought another untrained group. If you've walked around the city, you will see that the streets are being now patrolled by people from the prison services. This is a group that have not trained together. These are people that do not fall under the same command. And when you deploy them in that very fashion, you don't know who will do what. People will start taking commands from different commanders. And that is why you've seen a commander is telling people, you can walk to anniversary towers so long as this is peaceful. And then out of nowhere, somebody loads a tear gas canister at the protesters. You see? We start hearing people firing live bullets or rubber bullets against the demonstrators. So who is in charge here? Because clearly, it's supposed to be indicated that, yes, we're having a riot contingent at anniversary towers, and the person in charge, the person to be held responsible is officer so-and-so. So who is giving instructions here? I've seen the GSU there. I've seen the administration police. You see me having worked there, I can be able to differentiate.
Yeah, even with the berets.
Even with the berets, even with the helmets. I'll tell you this is from the administration police, this is from the prisons, this one is from the Kenya police. Now that kind of mixture. When did they receive training or when did they receive instructions on how they're going to deal with the situation at anniversary towers? We've just brought together a team and deployed to anniversary towers without proper operational orders.
In command.
In command. Who is, but what I'm seeing here is not knowing exactly circumstances we you people are supposed to are building these are young because and the police took. And at the end of the day, the rioters will turn violent. They will not accept to be pushed out of the city without giving a fight.
So even this retreat that we're seeing, because right now we are not able to see them as much as they were, most of these pictures are now dominated by the members of the press and the policemen. This might just be a strategic retreat.
Tactical retreat.
Retreat, yes.
This is a tactical retreat. They'll go regroup somewhere and then now re-strategize and say, now because the police have decided to become violent,
we'll be clever with them.
We'll be clever with them.
Yes.
So they might remove these battles from anniversary towers. You will find them now spreading all over the streets of Nairobi. It will move from anniversary towers. Next thing, it will be on Kimathi Street, Mwindi Bingu Street. They will go down to River Road. And this is exactly what the president warned against. And I think people are playing now in the hands of the police. And this is not how things are supposed to be. And the police also have sort of not acted professionally. in dealing with these, with the demonstrators from my observation as I'm seated here. I think they should have handled this far much better than what we have seen.
Okay.
They should not have used violence. Tear gas is normally the last resort. You don't start tear gassing people without declaring that assembly illegal.
Okay.
I've not seen somebody there with a megaphone telling people in a language that they understand. Not
because that is the law?
That is the law.
Okay.
And in Kenya, the language that we understand is English and Kiswahili. So you should read that declaration first in English, all persons here assembled, and then move to Kiswahili, watu wote waliokusanyika. That is the language that Kenyans understand. You get, and give them time to absorb, and then see their next course of action.
Okay, just stay with me. I'll let you go in a second, but I'm told on the ground our reporter Kennedy Mureithi, who replaced Andrew Cheng, is ready to speak to us to explain everything that we are not able to get here. Mureithi? We try. All right, as we try and get Kennedy Mureithi, who is on the ground, to explain to us what exactly is happening with the protest and the protesters, what exactly the police is saying, how far they have been pushed, and definitely if there are any NASA leaders within that crowd, we'll be speaking to Kennedy Mureithi, who is on the ground, who incidentally has been reporting the matters of IBC and the changes each day. And of course, this coming in the face of the new demands. Yesterday, in fact, the IBC wrote a letter to NASA requesting them to push forward this protest and allow for dialogue, which should be coming up tomorrow. That dialogue probably will not happen owing to what NASA has been saying. We had that with the ODM chair, Mbadi, earlier speaking and saying that there was no need even to consider what the IBC was presenting before them. And of course, this will metamorphosize, and the crowd has retreated, but my expert here said it could be a tactical retreat ahead of even more running battles with the police. But let's get a sense from the ground, and that's why we find Kennedy Mureithi. Ken?
Well, thank you very much, Ken Mejungo. Is that outside Anniversary Towers is almost now a no-go zone, as Jubilee and NASA supporters are being repulsed by police. You'll remember one of the things that has made police actually use tear gas at this particular point is the fact that they were fearing that the demonstrators from both NASA and Jubilee would actually engage in a fight at this particular time. This road, although cars are passing at this particular time, they are minimal, not as much as they were. But some of them, we have even seen members of parliament from NASA who are passing here just to see how things are going. One person has been hurt, we have seen, and another has been arrested as police are trying to quell everything that is happening at this particular time. We've also seen, I'm a victim of what has been happening. If you can see closely into my eyes, I've been affected by the tear gas that has been thrown. And everybody who was trying to get here, they were not knowing whether you're a journalist or somebody who is on their side, but everybody was being affected by what was happening. Right now, we were able to see police trying to repulse, and one of the things that they are saying, because one of the officers here, none of them is authorized to speak to the media. We've spoken to some of them, and they say that the fact that they are repulsing NASA and Jubilee supporters is that they're trying to evade that standoff that might be there, and they might be engaging in fights. For the Jubilee supporters, they are saying that the NASA supporters who are coming to this particular area are trying to bring business to a standstill within the central business district, and they will not allow that to happen. And the NASA supporters who are here are only adhering to a call that that was made by their principal, the presidential candidate Raila Odinga, for them to come here on Tuesday to make sure that they eject Ezra Chiloba, who is the chief executive officer for the IEBC. But even as they continue with all this, we do understand that none of the officials is in the office, as they are understood to be at a meeting where bishops are in Karen. And this is what is just happening. Some of the cars that are also passing here, if my cameraman will be able to show, they are passing at a very a very high speed, because they do not know whether as they approach this area, they will be met by some of the protesters who are here. Journalists, and most of them also international, are in their gas masks, just trying to get into the smoke and get the clearest of pictures. Also, the local journalists who are here are trying to get an angle of everything that is happening. Most of the matatus that ply this route, most of the time, are not here at this particular time. They have been advised to find an alternative route. Some of the supporters are actually insinuating that one of them might have died. It is not something that we have confirmed. They might be making those allegations, but it is not something that we have confirmed. It was being shown live on NTV. They were trying to confront GSU officers, asking them to take action and take one of those people who has died into the mortuary. But all these are just allegations from them. We have not been able to confirm. What we can confirm is that we've seen one person has been hurt and has been badly hurt, and he had been made to lay down somewhere close to the anniversary towers gate, and that is what we can confirm as of now. But we do understand that members of parliament from the NASA coalition will be leading this demonstration. None of the principals has been here yet, and none of the members of parliament has come here yet, because we do know that the protesters have been here from around 10 o'clock in the morning, just trying to make sure that they keep police busy. There is heavy police presence at this particular time. That is from the administration police, regular police, and the prison police, all of them here just to make sure that whatever is happening, none of them gains access to the anniversary towers where the IEBC has their offices. All that is happening is that they've also been able to ask for reinforcement just to make sure that anybody who comes to this particular point is not allowed to get to this particular point. Tear gas has been renting the air for the better part of the morning and some part of this afternoon as they try to make sure that the anniversary towers is closely guarded. You'll remember yesterday in a letter to NASA Secretariat, IEBC had asked them to make sure that they put off these protests so as to allow for discussion this coming. If my cameraman will come to this side, one of the people who was hurt, there's an ambulance that is coming at this particular time just to get him and take him to hospital. That is the person that we told you had been badly hurt by the protests that were going on. And as my cameraman is showing right now, there's that ambulance that was going to some other place that had been recalled by some of the protesters who want to make sure that this person is attended to. As I had told you, is that it was running battles. Nobody would know which side the other falls. But at this particular time, some people have been hurt from the ongoing protests that have been witnessed here from 10 o'clock. We do not know, we cannot ascertain from which side this person is from, but all we can tell you is that it has been happening and that one person has been badly hurt, and there are calls that these people should be taken to hospital so that they can get specialized treatment at this particular time. That is what is happening here right now. They are making sure that person, the protesters, I have confirmed that one of those people is a NASA supporter. The person who was hurt is a NASA supporter, and they are the ones who have called in the ambulance to come in and actually take that person to hospital. And they are here talking. Let us just listen in.
Wale siku walikuwa wanaandamana, sisi hatukukuja tukawa confront. Naye sisi tunaingia na hapa, wao polisi wanakubali, wanaimba pale NASA, alafu tukiingia ndani yao, wao wanaanza kutupangia vile watatupiga. Maandamano ni ya NASA. Na maandamano ni ya NASA.
Huyo mtu ambaye ameumia ni nani?
Yule mwenye ameumia ni wa NASA. Na hii njama ya soko. Hii njama ya soko.
Well, we do not want to get into, they might be making claims that we cannot ascertain at this particular time, but they have confirmed to us that one of those people who was hurt was their supporter. He has been taken in by the ambulance just to be taken to the hospital. But at this particular time, they are pushing forward coming to anniversary towers and there's a probability that the police here might once again use their strength using the tear gas to repulse them so that they do not get to the IEBC and the anniversary towers where they are really targeting to get into. The heavy contingent of police officers here wants to make sure that everything that is happening at this particular time, nobody is allowed to get to the anniversary towers. The OCS, that is Officer Commanding Police Station, that is the Central Police Station, is actually leading this contingent and is calling on the police to make sure that in everything they do, he is the one who's giving the orders so that anybody who gets to this particular point, they are actually hit and repulsed from this particular point. The Jubilee supporters who are here came in, tried to repulse the NASA supporters. Then when tear gas was thrown at them, they actually raised their hands and walked away at that particular point just to make sure that there is no confrontation between them and the police. But at this particular time, the NASA supporters are the ones who are left here to make sure that in everything that happens, there's a tear gas that has already been thrown on the road, and the supporters have started running in different directions just to make sure that they are not caught in this melee. If my cameraman Eric Isinta will show, that is what you're seeing right now is a tear gas that had been thrown on the road, trying to repulse all these supporters who are marching towards anniversary towers at this particular point, where the police are making sure that nobody is allowed, whether from what side, nobody is allowed to the anniversary towers. They have come out to cordon off this particular place so that they do not again access to the anniversary towers where IEBC has its offices. That is what is happening at this particular time. Everybody's trying to scramble just to get a photo of what is here. The supporters have run in different directions. Nobody wants to be caught up in this, because what has happened to that person who's been taken to hospital is that when tear gas was thrown their way, there was a stampede, and probably they got caught up in that stampede at that particular time, right? I'll just leave Eric Isinta to give you photos of what is happening at this particular time, so that tear gas is still being thrown at supporters who are still here. Others are actually even jumping the fence of Nairobi University, just going in to try to get safety or to get to be safe. But some of the students who are there are calling them out to make sure that they do not become part of the students. Also, the security guards who are guarding the university are making sure that anybody who gains access to the university and is not authorized, they call them out, and police are actually coming to arrest some. There's something that is happening on that particular side. My cameraman is running towards it. And as I had informed you earlier, is that police are seriously repulsing anybody who are getting towards anniversary towers, which has been cordoned off for this particular time, so that they do not get in and actually access anything here at the anniversary towers. You'll remember that it is not only the IEBC who are at anniversary towers. They only occupy a few floors. There is so much other business that is happening here at the anniversary towers, and it is the duty of police officers to protect public property, and that is what is happening at this particular time. Not just the IEBC who are here, but anybody else who has their businesses at this particular point. They are running in different directions as soon as police catch to them. And just as I said, I'll leave you to get the live pictures as they appear right now on your television station.
All right, Kennedy Muredi reporting from the anniversary towers. All right, Kennedy Muredi reporting from the anniversary towers, and that's along University Way. That is where all the action is. And Ken, safety first. Thank you for reporting. We'll be coming back to you. And as we conclude this discussion, George, you strongly feel that it's the police that are bringing all this chaos to this protest?
I strongly suspect so, because from what we've heard from Reithi, is that we had two groups of protesters. We had one group from NASA and we had another group coming from Jubilee. And the police have given the reason that they had to disperse this so that to avoid a confrontation between the two. But we should look at this was a legal demonstration that had been called by NASA. So any other person that was coming there, this is the person that the police are supposed to have faced. Remember, initially I said that they should have cordoned off the area, only allowed bona fide protesters from NASA within the cordoned area. And any other person should have been kept away. And if you identify that this is a person that is not pro-NASA, he is pro-Jubilee, and is within that environment or with that area, this is the person that is supposed to have been arrested or is supposed to have been dispersed. But just grouping everybody together and then dispersing them is a disaster in happening, because what will happen is that these two groups will go and reassemble elsewhere. Now, what has happened at Anniversary Towers is that we've actually transferred the problem from Anniversary Tower to the other parts of the city, because now the NASA people feel antagonized and they're saying we're not letting this go. And the other team is also saying now we are here for a mission to make sure that these demonstrations do not go on. What will happen is that now we're going to see running battles between the two groups within other parts of the city, away from Anniversary Towers. This is not what is supposed to have happened.
All right. George, as I let you go, just because I realize on social media there's a lot of people who are reacting to our broadcast here. As I let you go, one word to the people who are still away from these protesters.
Don't come to town, because this was supposed to be peaceful demonstrations, and as we've seen it now, they have turned into something else. They have turned violence, and we are seeing the police using force to disperse any person that is around Anniversary Towers. So let us keep away from the CBD for our own security.
All right, so keep safe. Thank you, George Msomali, security analyst, security expert, and he's been on the street, as we now know. He knows what it takes to be on the street and to disperse the crowd. Thank you, George, for sharing that with us. We expected to keep you for 30 minutes. We kept you for more than an hour. Thank you very much. And of course, there's so many other stories that we are following this afternoon for you. For example, at Capitol Hill, there is activity from NASA. They had a press conference earlier addressed by John Mbadi, the ODM chair, but there's still some more from NASA, and that's where we find Andrew Cheng. That's Capitol Hill. Andrew, good afternoon. Tell us from your end what's happening. All right, Andrew Cheng is at Capitol Hill. The NASA is having a series of press conferences and talking to Kenyans about what's happening, especially in regards to the withdrawal of the security of the VVIPs, that is Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, and we now understand Moses Wetangula might also not be having his security detail. Let's cross over to Capitol Hill, where Andrew Cheng is now. And Andrew, good afternoon. Tell us what's happening from your end.
From now for the address by the NASA principals here at the Capitol Hill offices of the NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga. Anytime we expect him to walk from the door on my right. That is why I keep staring at that door. But he wasn't there earlier on when there was a press briefing at the ODM headquarters in Ngong Road, where some of the issues they were saying is that their demonstrations today were going to be infiltrated by supporters of Jubilee. That is the allegation that was made by NASA members of parliament during that parliamentary group meeting. That in that meeting they also alleged that the security of the NASA presidential candidate Raila Odinga, as well as the running mate Kalonzo Musyoka, had been withdrawn, and they were saying that the police should ensure, the president should ensure that Raila Odinga as well as Kalonzo Musyoka are adequately protected during this election period. So we are expecting those issues to be addressed, as well as the botched demonstrations that we understand right now has just happened. The demonstrations, the protests have sort of been disbanded by the anti-riot police who are at Anniversary Tower. So we are expecting his reaction on that. But key and most important from Raila Odinga and the NASA principals, we are expecting the way forward. Remember, NASA had been invited to a meeting tomorrow by the IEBC at the Bomas of Kenya. The meeting was supposed to bring together all the stakeholders, all the players in the fresh presidential election scheduled for the 26th of October. So we are expecting his reaction from that, and whether they are willing to renege on the irreducible minimums that they had given earlier. Remember, yesterday the IEBC chairman Wafula Chebukati had called on NASA to hold on its protests fast before that meeting is held. So we will also be keen to listen to whether they will be attending that meeting and whether they will be reneging on some of the list that they have made. Remember, they are saying that at the minimum, there has to be accountability from the IEBC, and the officials who are alleged to have bungled the elections and led to the nullification of the presidential election should be held accountable fast, or should leave office, should be suspended before anything else is done. So still waiting here at the Capitol Hill Towers to listen from the NASA principals. Ken?
All right, Andrew Cheng reporting from the Capitol Hill. That's the place where NASA is supposed to have a press conference this afternoon. And we understand that for this press conference, Raila Odinga, the NASA presidential candidate, will be addressing it. Earlier, we had one press conference from NASA, which was largely about what's been happening. And probably my director would want to play that soundbite from NASA regarding the security of their personnel, especially Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka. And now we understand that Moses Wetangula may not also be having his security detail. Very minimal information coming from the police service regarding this, but as soon as we have it, we will definitely share it with you. NTV Sasa will be coming later on. They'll have all the details. But first, we understand that Raila Odinga is now ready at the podium. Let's take you back to Capitol Hill, where Andrew Cheng is reporting from.
Better. It's better, huh? Okay. Is it better? No, I don't think so. You struggle with the light.
We are ready. Ladies and gentlemen, our statement reads, Kenyans will resist layers of conspiracy to kill democracy, freedom, and the rule of law. We have suffered many calamities in the long journey that has brought us to this low point, but we have always managed one way or the other to overcome them. By making courageous sacrifices, we have frequently gone on to much greater heights, as we did in the 2010 Constitution. Today, we are in one of those dark moments in the history of our nation once again. We are confronted with the layers upon layers of deceit and deception that we must not allow to reign. The latest of our many calamities occurred last month, when the presidential election was brazenly stolen in full view of Kenyans and the world. It was the third time in a row that the people's electoral will had been hijacked. It was indefensible the first time it was done in 2007. It was even more intolerable the second time in 2013. And when it happened again last month, the level of defeat and impunity soared into altogether uncharted realm. Amid such lawlessness came a courageous Supreme Court ruling that stunned the entire world, leave alone Kenya and Africa. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, and unlawful war aside, few crimes are worse than the theft of a people's right to elect a leader who will address their challenges and fulfill their hopes. But today, we are faced with a crisis of monumental proportions that goes well beyond electoral injustice. It is no longer about who is the rightful president of Kenya, or about the naked theft of a presidency. That is unacceptable enough. The tragedy we face today and which we have to confront before it consumes us, is not that elections were stolen. It is that the IEBC, Jubilee, and a number of local and international actors are determined to repeat that fraud, and they want us to participate in it. Those who control the levers of power in Kenya do not merely want to govern us against our will for the next 5 years. No. They want to ensure they will retain power forever by all means. That is the entire purpose of acting President Uhuru Kenyatta's courageous abuse, threats, and utterly lawless actions in recent days, which are designed to rally his base and other power centers and assure them that power will always stay with them, not just till 2022, but forever. To this end, Jubilee is determined to take Kenyans to another charade of elections whose result will be the same as the one that has been nullified. One thing Jubilee and IBC refuse to disclose and address, even as they claim to be making changes to the electoral system, is the role the local telecommunication firms, particularly Safaricom, Kenya, played in the collaboration with the Safran Mofo in manipulating the August elections in favor of Jubilee and Uhuru Kenyatta. It is a matter of public record that Safaricom was contracted by the IEBC to transmit election results from the KIMS kits at the polling stations to the IEBC servers. All this data was to be conveyed via virtual private network, VPN, in order to ensure that there was no tampering of the results before reaching the servers. It has since come to our knowledge that one of these VPNs terminated at a cloud server registered in Spain but operated from France under the control of OTP Mopo. Both VPNs were fully paid for by the IBC. However, the VPN Safaricom terminating locally was never set up. Consequently, results from the polling stations, the KIMS kits, left the country but never found their way back to IEBC. In other words, results which came from the polling stations were transmitted through IEBC network to a server hosted in France, but they never came back to a server at Bomas of Kenya. None of the kits under Safaricom's network ever got their results onto the IBC's public work portal. This collusion between Safaricom, IBC, and Safran Moso remains intact, and the firm is set to do the same thing again which it did in August. Ask yourself, what were the results which were being displayed on the television when the results coming from polling stations were terminating in France? We are also aware that between July 25th and July 27th, the period immediately prior to the disappearance of the acting IBC ICT director, Mr. Chris Musando, hundreds of KIM kits were stolen from the IBC, and the information was shared with the Safaricom. On the election day, the stolen KIMS kits were allowed to continue operating on the Safaricom network, even though the company, they were operating on the Safaricom network, even though the company management knew those kits were not under the control of the IEBC. Safaricom allowed this illegality to go on and did not even care to report the various illegal activities of these KIM kits. You remember, that there were several results coming from ungazetted polling stations. We have the names of the 6 individuals at Safaricom who had intimate knowledge of this conspiracy and either actively participated or concealed the same. That same team has been reassembled to do what they did back then. We have instructed our lawyers to initiate private prosecution of the officers under the Cyber Crimes Act. Safaricom is yet to come out on this matter even as it prepares to take Kenyans for another charade of elections. This conspiracy comes out at a time Jubilee has indicated that it will be passing new laws to make it impossible for the Supreme Court to nullify any future elections. The IEBC clearly has no intention of reforming itself into a credible electoral institution. It is far too beholden to Jubilee to begin that process. In any event, IEBC cannot begin the process of ensuring an honest election as long as those responsible for the irregularities and illegalities are still lurking in its corridors. IEBC has refused to dismiss or suspend them. That is why we are today beginning this peaceful campaign to force them out by public pressure so that the process of fair elections can at last begin. There are lawyers and webs of deception, there are layers and webs of deception and deceit that we must unravel and reclaim our country. Kenyans in no way want to hold another very expensive election which will be rigged again. End of statement. Kabla sijajibu maswali, tumesema ya kwamba Wakenya watakataa njama ya kujaribu kuvunja demokrasia, uhuru wa kunena na utawala wa kisheria katika taifa letu. Tumeona dalili ya kwamba Jubilee wanafanya njama ya kuturudisha nyuma kama Wakenya katika ile enzi ya utawala wa chama kimoja, pale ambaye rais alikuwa anaitwa mtukufu rais, ambao viongozi walikuwa wanaenda ikuluni kwenda kupiga magoti chini na kupewa mabahati ya pesa. Ati mtukufu rais, ni wewe peke yako, wewe ndiye mkulima number 1, wewe ndiye mwalimu number 1, wewe mwenyewe ni baba na mama, wewe ndiye huko Prince of Peace. Wakati ile ambaye akienda mahali watakuwa wanalia, atoa mtukufu rais, hapa kwetu barabara ni mbaya sana, mvua ikinyesha haizipitiki, ati hapa hospitali haina dawa. Mtukufu rais, juzi upepo ilikuja hapa ikatoa paa ya nyumba yetu, watoto wanasoma chini ya mti. Alafu akisimama na uliza mawaziri huyu na huyu, angalia, kimaliza kaeni hivyo hivyo, Mungu awasaidie. Hiyo ni enzi ambayo Wakenya wamesahau. Kuna Wakenya wengine ambao wamezaliwa nyuma ambayo hajui yale ambayo yalitendeka. Wakati hiyo ilikuwa ukijaribu kupinga, unashikwa unapelekwa ndani. Wakati hiyo polisi walikuwa ndio sheria wenyewe, walikuwa ukijaribu tu namna hii ndani. Maaskari walikuwa barabarani wakati wa Kenya wakifanya maandamano, kurusha na matia gas, kupiga watu risasi. Hata kulikuwa hapa vikundi tulikuwa naitwa jeshi la mzee, walikuwa wanapiga watu hapa hovyo hovyo. Tumeona dalili ya serikali ya Jubilee kurudisha huko. Tulisema wale ambao wanaongoza serikali ya Jubilee ni yatima ya ule enzi, na wanasema wanataka kuvunja katiba yetu na kurudisha sisi kule ambayo sisi tulitoka. Tumeona wao wakipiga kifua. Sisi tuko na wengi katika bunge, tuna wengi ya masenators. Tutabadilisha sheria ya uchaguzi, tutabadilisha sheria na kupunguza nguvu ya mahakama. Ndio sisi tunataka kuambia wao si Kenya. Wakenya wamepigania uhuru ya kisheria na kikatiba kwa miaka mingi zaidi, na hawako tayari kurejeshwa nyuma na serikali ya Jubilee. Tumesema hatutakubali. Tuliona wizi wa hadharani wa kura mwezi uliopita, wakati walitumia shirika ya IBC kuhujumu sheria na kufanya maovu yale mengi sana ambaye ilionekana wazi mbele ya mahakama kuu. Mahakama kuu ilikuwa haina chaguo ila kusema ati katiba haikufanyika kwa mujibu ya katiba, yani uchaguzi haikufanyika kwa mujibu ya katiba na kisheria, na kutupilia mbali matokeo haya. Sasa tumeona hasira mingi imetoka pande ya Jubilee. Wanasema mpaka tuwe na uchaguzi, wapende wasipende. Na ile vyombo ambazo ziliwekwa ya kuiba kura bado ziko. Tuko na thibitisho ya kwamba ile mtambo ambayo imeliwekwa hapa na kampuni inaitwa Saffron Mof, wakifanya pamoja na kampuni ya Safaricom Kenya, ambayo ndiyo ilikuwa imeleta utandawazi ya kusurusha matokeo kutoka kwenye vituo vya kupiga kura, vituo ya kujumlisha kura na kuleta hapa Bomas. Walikuwa na mpango ya kuchukua hizo kutoka kule na kupeleka moja kwa moja hadi Ufaransa, lakini hawakuweka mkakati ya kurudisha hiyo matokeo kutoka Ufaransa hadi hapa Kenya. Kwa hivyo yale matokeo ya kura zote yetu zote ziko bado kule kwa hifadhi katika hiyo servers ya Saffron Mof kule Ufaransa. Hiyo ndio sababu mahakama ilipotoa uamuzi ati wafungue server hapa tukague tuone matokeo. Walikataa kwa sababu wanajua yale ambayo yiko kule Ufaransa. Sasa wanataka kurudisha sisi kwa uchaguzi kama yale ambayo walikuwa wanaonyesha wa Kenya katika mtandao, katika televisheni siku hiyo. Ilikuwa ni sarakasi. Kwenye mahakama walisema zilikuwa ni manamba tu. They were just statistics. Wasema hiyo statistics unatoka wapi? Hawajui. Kwa hivyo sisi hatuko tayari kurudi kwa uchaguzi tena, ambayo ilikuwa ni sarakasi, itakuwa ni sarakasi. Hatuko tayari mpaka mabadiliko yafanyike na IBC. Kwanza wale maafisa wa IBC watolewe. Pili, mpango kamili ifanyike ya kuchapisha kura na vile vile kutandaza hiyo matokeo ya uchaguzi kutoka kwenye vituo vya kupiga kura hadi ile ya constituency. Hatutaki tena Bomas of Kenya iwe tallying center. Tunataka matokeo itangazwe kwenye vituo ya constituency. Na sheria imesema, katiba inasema uchaguzi wa rais ufanyika katika constituency. Na mahakama vile vile iliamua ati matokeo ambayo imetangazwa na msimamizi ya kura katika constituency ndio mwisho, is the final. Hatutaki bwana Chebukati akae hapa katika Bomas of Kenya ati na ofisa yake ataona jumulisha. Jumulisha itafanywa katika constituency na hiyo itakuwa ni mwisho yake. Kwa hivyo tumesema kama masharti yetu hayajatimizwa hakuna uchaguzi, na tumeanza minendo leo kuelekea mbele ya kuhakikisha kwamba mpaka yale masharti yetu yatimizwe ndio kuwe na uchaguzi. Shukran.
Measures they are putting in place to ensure there is more accountability and transparency in the presidential election. Looking at the response that they gave yesterday to the letter that was written by Norman Magai, do you feel there is some semblance towards achieving credible elections? What more should be done, and will your team be attending that tomorrow?
There's nothing of the sort. And by the way, we looked at that letter and we have responded to that letter. Constituted clearly that letter falls far short of addressing the concerns which were raised in our letter. We had said that we wanted the company called Al Ghurair to be removed from printing ballot papers and ballot materials because of what we saw in the Supreme Court. They are telling us that they have got a 2-year running contract with Al Ghurair, which cannot be terminated. You need to know that that contract was single-sourced. And the excuse last time was that time was too short to look for any other printer. They are saying that UNDP is going to fund, to pay Al Ghurair. It's not a question who is paying Al Ghurair. If it's a question of paying Al Ghurair, Kenya government can pay Al Ghurair. There's money. They have actually applied for 10 billion shillings, which includes the money for printing of the ballot papers. So that is a cosmetic thing, trying to hide under the UNDP, supposedly that there will be due diligence. We reject, and we have said Al Ghurair should not print ballot papers, period. Then is this issue here of Saffron Mof. And I've gone to great length to explain to you the collusion between Saffron Mof and Safaricom, which is not even there hitherto. And Safaricom, by the way, has already done exactly what it did last time. They have not come clear to tell us why they agreed to enter into this kind of conspiracy with the Saffron Mof to transfer the results from our polling stations to France, against even the advice of the Communications Commission of Kenya, that basically you are actually endangering national security. We're taking crucial national information and data to another country, rather than your own country. So we've said that, and this is the same arrangement they want to do. So what we are saying here is that IEBC is living in denial. The results of the elections which came from polling stations never came back to their server in Bomas of Kenya. And that's the reason why they refuse to allow the Supreme Court, together with the representatives of political parties, access to their servers to find out what is in those servers. So, under those arrangements, we are not ready again to go for a repeat of this charade. Jubilee now is busy trying to bully the entire nation. Oh, we have got the numbers. Well, the numbers which are also stolen for them by the same IBC, and that we will do whatever we like. You've seen that happen in 1981. The same parliament was bulldozed into changing the constitution and taking the country to the single-party dictatorship, which took this country many years to remove, and loss of so many lives at that time. This is the kind of parliament that we are now having today. we see them sounding war songs and so on. But we want to tell them Kenyans have been there before. Kenyans are not ready to go back there. It will be resisted by the people of Kenya, even at the cost of their lives. Number one, on the issue, this story has been on for some time. What happened is that the proper arrangement should be that when people are voting at the polling stations, once they have voted and the results have been counted, the presiding officer is supposed to announce the results. Once he announces the results, he's supposed to key them in his smartphone. And he has got a code which he transmits those results to the constituency tallying center and also to the national tallying center at Bomas of Kenya. Secondly, at the constituency tallying center, when the returning officer has added all the results from the polling stations, he's supposed to then complete Form 34B and then scan it and text it again to the National Tallying Center. Announce the results and text the National Tallying Center. What was happening is that Safaricom was the service provider. In other words, the medium through which these results were being transmitted to the Constituency Tallying Center and the National Tallying Center. But the arrangement which was entered between Safaricom and Saffron Mof, that they are not transferring to Bomas of Kenya. They are transferring these results to a server in France. The Saffron Mof server is not hosted here in Kenya. It is in France. The results coming from all these polling stations were going to France. Then there was supposed to be an arrangement through which those results would then be forwarded back through the clouds to a server in Bomas of Kenya. That connection was never done by Safaricom. In other words, these results were terminating in France, and that's where they are today. So that's the reason why, when Supreme Court ordered the IBC to allow access to their server, to give us read-only access, and our representatives, our experts, together with the Supreme Court experts, went to Anniversary Towers, they were not allowed access because the information was not available here. And they had their lawyers saying that people were still sleeping in Europe, in the Supreme Court. That kind of charade. It's just like saying you have got a Visa card and you go to a restaurant to eat and you want to pay and they tell you where the Visa card is hosted, they're still asleep. You cannot pay. You hear that kind of nonsense in today's world. This is what it is. Then there were some Kim kits which was supposedly stolen at the IBC. That is a matter of public knowledge. But nobody knows where they are. And you remember in the Supreme Court, we gave evidence that the GPS system of IBC, which was supposed to locate the position of each of the Kim's kits, was disconnected on the 5th of August. 5th of August. Ordinarily, when that GPS system is there, you will know exactly the location of each Kim's kit in the country. in which polling station that kit is. It's where it is transmitting from. But if you disconnect the GPS, then you cannot now locate where they are transmitting from. This enabled these so-called kits which were stolen to transmit results. And that's the reason why there were over thousands unregistered, non-gazetted polling stations, which also transmitted results into the IBC servers. You see, these results were coming from the so-called kits which were stolen, supposedly. They are the ones which were now voting for the dead voters, the ghost voters who were resurrected. I hope you now understand. The next thing is you're talking about why the members of the summit were not there. This is not an Odinga, Kakalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi affair. This is a Kenyan affair. It's a Kenyan affair. In war, you don't get the generals all the times in the field. The generals are not always in the field. You have got foot soldiers who are in the field, who are fighting. So it is a demonstration of Kenyans. It's not a demonstration of Raila Odinga. This is what they expected me to be in the field. That's why they withdrew my security, so that I would be there and exposed and so on. I don't care, I don't fear. I'm not here because of the security. My biggest security is the people of Kenya. That is why they can withdraw the security, it's their shauri. So, but you need to know that under the law, I am entitled to the state security. I don't enjoy them at the behest or because of the sympathy and mercy or pleasure of Uhuru Kenyatta. There is a law which he himself assented to, which entitled me to security, which entitled me to pension, and so on, and entitled to Kalonzo as well. They've also withdrawn Kalonzo's security. Okay? But we are not regretting. We will be here. We'll be here, we'll stand with the people of Kenya irrespective of the consequences. Pardon? What was the explanation given to you as to the Nobody has communicated to me. I just woke up in the morning and found the security were not there. So I don't know who is withdrawn and who is not withdrawn. That is, but that's not the issue of this press conference. So I don't really want to dwell on it so much, as if it is a major issue. It's a non-issue. It's of no consequence.
At your standpoint as NASA, do you think that Al-Ghurairi later on its contract of terms with IBC or IBC and Al-Ghurairi colluded to print fake papers to be used in the election?
See, Al-Ghurairi is a very big company. And we can only deal with Al-Ghurairi because we have looked at the contract between Al-Ghurairi and IBC, which is very explicit. The one, they must print documents with serial numbers. They must have logo of IBC. They must have watermarks, security. They must have barcodes on them. The documents that they submitted, because remember the Supreme Court ordered that they bring in all the 40,883 forms 34 A's and 290 from 34 B's and one from 34 C originals. And the excess took place down here at Milimani Court. They brought, and it was under the supervision of the register of the Supreme Court. The Jubilee representatives were there too, and we also sent our representative there. when they went there, the IBC only brought copies. They did not bring originals as ordered by the Supreme Court. Well, these copies, when subjected to scrutiny, failed the scrutiny. Some of them did not have serial numbers, although the contract between the Al Ghurair and IBC said they must have serial numbers. Some of them did not have logos. Some of them did not have the security features, the watermarks. Some of them had barcodes. When you brought a barcode reader to read that barcode, ordinarily it should give you the name of the constituency and the polling station number. But this one's here, you put one, it shows you an hotel in France. Another one shows you a supermarket. Another one is advertising a certain product. So the others did not have the stamp of the IBC on them. Others had a signature of the returning officer, but not agents of the party. Others had signatures of the agents of the party, but not that of the returning officer. That's how they failed the test, scrutiny test. Okay? And out of 291 constituencies, 92 failed the test. Okay? And then out of 4,000 they brought, they did not bring 40, only brought 4,000. Over 1,000 failed the test. And that is the reason why you can only draw one conclusion. But there was forgery. There was an attempt to cheat in this. And in this, IBC is as culpable as Al Ghurair itself. That's the reason why we say we don't want Al Ghurair. And Al Ghurair is a major company. If they think they are being unfairly treated, if they think that IBC printed other documents here illegally, that the document which failed the test did not come from Dubai, they have a responsibility to come out clear and clear their name. They have not done that. They are quiet, and that's why we say they are complicit. The same thing with Saffron Mof, and the same thing with Safaricom. And we are going to sue Safaricom, and by extension, we may even go to Vodacom, which is a major shareholder in Safaricom. We're also going to write to Serious Fraud Office in the UK to begin investigations, like they did with regard to Smith Osman in the Chicken Gate affair.
Earlier, what had gone on to that Saffron Mof has threatened to sue you for the internet. How far have you communicated with them? Or have you gotten any information from them?
Yeah, I am, and I'm ready yesterday for them to sue me, because I have a lot of evidence against them. If they dare to sue me, they will pay the consequences. Thank you.
Naam, ndio kama hivyo. Ni taarifa kwa vyombo vya habari kama ulivyosikia kutoka kwa kiongozi wa NASA au mgombea rais kupitia tiketi ya NASA Raila Odinga, akizungumzia masuala ambayo yanajiri hivi sasa, kuanzia maandamano ambayo wamepanga dhidi ya IBC yanayoendelea na mambo ambayo wao wanayataka yatekelezwe au masharti yatekelezwe ili waweze kurejelea uchaguzi kama walivyotoa masharti yao. Wanasema kwamba wanasisitiza na kushinikiza mabadiliko katika IBC, la sivyo basi hakuna uchaguzi utafanyika, kwani kwa mujibu wao ni kwamba yatakuwa yale yale ya kubirua sufuri na itasalia vile vile kama sufuri. Kwa hiyo ndio baadhi ya mambo ambayo amezungumzia hii leo katika taarifa hii kwa vyombo vya habari. Pia akagusia swala la kupokonywa walinzi, akasema hakuarifiwa walinzi wake kuondolewa, kwa hivyo, lakini amesema sio jambo la msingi hilo. Cha msingi tulizungumzia ni kwamba masharti yao yatekelezwe kabla ya uchaguzi kuandaliwa tena, ambapo uchaguzi ya IBC kwa mujibu wa IBC ni Oktoba 26, lakini kulingana na masharti na matakwa ya NASA basi huenda kukawa na ugumu fulani kuwafikia malengo na matarajio ya IBC kuhusiana na uchaguzi huo. Kumbuka kwamba IBC pia ilitoa barua kwa NASA kutoa mapendekezo yake kwa mujibu wa matakwa ya NASA waliowasilisha katika IBC, ikiwa mojawapo ni Umoja wa Mataifa kuhusika kwa njia moja au nyingine katika ununuzi wa vifaa vya kupigia kura. Lakini yote hayo yamepuuzwa na NASA na kusema kwamba mambo ya kimsingi ikiwemo kampuni ambayo inachapisha karatasi za kura ambayo ni Al-Ghurair bado hayajatatuliwa, pamoja na baadhi ya maafisa katika IEBC ambao bado hawajabadilishwa. Kwa hiyo yote haya itakuwa ni kazi bure iwapo masharti yao waliotoa kwa IEBC hayatatekelezwa. Kwa hivyo tuna mengi ambayo tutakuwa tunaendelea kuzungumzia hii leo katika NTV Sasa, lakini kwanza tunakwenda mapumzikoni. Tutarejea hivi punde.
Alleged that the accused uttered the words that he uttered, and that, as they state, it was captured and that it is in the public domain. Your Honor, once you dismiss those two assertions, you will find that the entire affidavit does not address the burden that is placed upon their shoulders. The burden of demonstrating that bond or bail ought not to be granted. Your Honor,
yes,
it is equally important to take note, Your Honor, that count 2 of the alternative charge under section 94(1) of the Penal Code is one where the sentence can only be either a fine or a term not exceeding 6 months. A fine or a term not exceeding 6 months. For that charge, Your Honor, it is not available for this court or for the prosecution to object to bail by dint of